All right, everybody, how are we doing right now? Let me just check a couple things. How did we like that chapter? That chapter was pretty fucking insane, wasn't it? Pretty insane. Pretty insane. I don't know the last time we got a character reveal quite like that. When was the last time? I don't know. I don't know the last time we had a character reveal quite like that. I mean, Saturn's been around, obviously, but how do I say it? Like a, oh, you guys are, oh, was I late? Yeah, I was late. It's pretty late. Sorry about that. Luke the DJ, thanks for joining the Supernova. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Good setup chapter. What are you talking about? That wasn't a setup chapter. That was the whole thing. That was it. That was the whole thing. I mean, this is it. This is what setup stuff leads to. Big reveals like this. Ryan Chan. Ryan Chan. Am I saying Chan because I'm too Japanese weeb-brained? Ryan Chan. Member for a Yonko tier member for 12 months. Thank you, man. Hello, Morj. Can we get a monthly haircut update, please? Oh, yeah, sure. So, haircut situation right now. I'm still trying to grow it out long. So, I scheduled a haircut actually for next Monday. So if I'm slightly late to next Monday's stream, you know why. But I scheduled a haircut for next Monday. So supposedly she's going to shape it some more. But I don't know. Right now the hair is wet, so you can't tell how poofy it's supposed to look. Because I just got out of the shower. So I don't know. I don't know where it's headed. Right? It's just going to keep getting longer. And around once a month, once every few weeks or whatever, I'm going to go get it shaped or whatever. And hopefully it heads in a certain direction. At some point, if I don't like it, I'll just get it all cut off, and it'll be short again. Sean Easton, thanks for the 2. Do you use YouTube Buddy? Wano vid when? Chapter, great. YouTube Buddy. Tube Buddy? You talking about Tube Buddy? I used to use that. I just don't find it that useful in the... I think some people probably find great use out of it. I stopped finding really good use out of it at a certain point. One of the things is that YouTube Studio itself, the thing that, you know, the built-in features that YouTube has for content creators has gotten better and better and better. So it shows you a lot of insights at this point. As much as I dislike, you know, YouTube's a pain in the ass to do content creation on, just because it's like, I don't think it treats its creators that well in certain ways. But they have done a lot to make it easier to understand your own metrics and things like that. So I find less and less of a use for TubeBuddy, but I'm sure that a lot of big content creators probably get a lot out of it. Wano vid when? Chapter thumbs up, he says. Wano vid when? I still believe that it's possible I can get it done before the Wano anime finishes, because we've still got several episodes to go, right? I still believe it's possible. Not a Pro 64, thank you. Remember when you said the Gorosei weren't going to be that strong? Hey, I'm happy to be very, very wrong in this situation. Very happy to be wrong. It looks like the Gorosei are... You know what's funny? So when Green Bull... It was always kind of bizarre that Oda introduces Green Bull, and it's at a point in time that Oda really... You would think that Oda would be doing a lot to try and hype up the world government, right? Because, you know, we're done... We're mostly... We're heading towards the end of dealing with pirates, right? Kaido defeated, Big Mom defeated. We just got Blackbeard left pretty much. So you're thinking, you know, the world government is being set up as the big final villain, right, at the end of Wano. And so you would expect, you know, a lot of people were even talking about how the world government side seemed a little lacking by the end of Wano, because it's like, yeah, they got a Kainu, that's good. Then they got Fujitora, but he's probably going to defect. Then they got Kizaru. And, you know, a lot of Marines, it seems like they're going to be in sword and stuff. They don't have the Shichibukai system anymore. So around the end of Wano, it looked really suspect on the world government side. And then we're shown the final admiral, right, Green Bull. And it's cool, like, he captures King and Queen, but then the very first scene of Green Bull, like, the very first fight scene of Green Bull, really, it's actually a Shanks hype scene. It's treating Green Bull as basically a hype tool for Shanks. And, you know, you never expect, it's so contradictory to how all the other admirals are introduced, where they're doing really badass stuff, and they're being hyped up, and they're doing something that establishes them in a very intimidating light, right? With Green Bull, he ends it with literally his hands up in the air, screaming like, please don't hurt me, I'm leaving, and stuff like that. That's not what we are used to with the Admirals, right? So that was always like a little strange to me, especially because We're in the final saga, right? You expect that the world government as the final villains, you're gonna be building them up quite a bit, right? So I'm like, oh man, the last admiral really isn't all that much. But it makes more sense now because I think that at the end of the day, it's looking like the admirals really aren't the, you know, obviously the admirals are a big deal, right? Luffy versus Kizaru and all that, but it really looks like Oda was fine not treating Green Bull with a ton of respect relative to the other admirals because Oda's like, hold up, you gotta wait on the real bad guys of this, whole world government conflict or whatever. Like the Gorosei were the ones that we were really waiting on, it turns out. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. So, I think that, I don't know. The Gorosei being strong, one interesting aspect of it is that they had to do a Pentagon type thing to unlock their abilities. So I think it's possible that in a neutral... No, but why? But why? Because he was able to transform at Marijua, right? Gotta figure out the Pentagon thing. Maybe it has to do with him being able to come to the surface or something. I don't know. Nerve AMV Maker, thanks for the 5. I can't believe how many pages were just dedicated to Saturn's reveal. It was so hype, Oda didn't need to use Sanji as the hype tool. That's funny. I think that might very well happen. Reason being, well, I'll talk about... Fuck, I think by next chapter it's very possible that we will be seeing a bit of Sanji versus Saturn. I've already got a video for next week written that I think is a really fucking interesting video on the Gorosei. And I think that there's a lot of clues from the previous arcs of the story that foreshadow what kind of we might be heading towards in the Gorosei. And there's something I'm kind of saving for a patron podcast that I think suggests that, like, it didn't make the cut to the script of this video that's coming out, but it will be in the next Friday's patron podcast talking about why Sanji might be fighting Saturn. But by that point, the chapter will have come out. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling, but Sanji versus Saturn I think is very, very likely. But not necessarily Sanji defeating Saturn, just Sanji versus Saturn. Tom, thanks for the 5. I love the chapter, but my god, it's looking bad for my man Sanji. Bro's the closest one to Saturn, and maybe stars equal Luffy's advanced conquerors. LMAO. Oh yeah, and all the commotion about Saturn, we forgot about that discussion. We're gonna get to that in a second. The great advanced conquerors hockey mystery. We got to talk about that. Drip Jombe 23, welcome to the Supernova. Mr. Nkaye, welcome to the Supernova. Thanks for joining. All right, let me catch these members real quick. Got that. Mr. MMF2, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 12 months, man. It's been a year, huh? Thanks for the good content, Morj. Thank you, man. Thanks for the support. Also, I'm still asking for Straw Hat Vanderdecken character analysis video. I don't know if I can deliver on that. I would say I'd save that for a rainy day, but I think like the biblical flood would have to happen for me to ever have to do a video like that. It would have to be the real end times. I'd have to be scrapping for like the most randomest ass content if I'm doing a Vanderdecken analysis video. All right. Where are we at? GDN says my Sanji will be Saturn's hype tool theory. Looking pretty good right now. Yeah, covered that. Ray Chia, thanks. Do we still think Bonnie is Devon? I think the Bonnie is Devon theory is officially undoubtedly dead at this point, right? Which is so much more interesting because it means, and I think Sanji's Devon is also dead, right? That was a theory for like a hot second, right? But this is clearly the Sanji that we know. So it's not Sanji, it's not Bonnie, it's not Zoro, it's not Luffy. Yeah, who's Devon is back on the table. Now it's actually really fucking interesting. Mr. Nkaye, thanks. Frankie is so getting crushed, Vega will rebuild him. Frankie's so getting crushed, Vega will rebuild him. I would rather Frankie rebuild himself. That's what he's good. That's his. I don't know. Schmike the Melts, thanks for the 2. Egghead will end before Morj reviews Wano. Sad. No, there's so much time for Egghead to go. Egghead this is a conversation that we had on stream. We've talked about this multiple times on stream, right? Which is Luffy versus Kizaru is the current matchup. It was the current matchup, right? We were talking about, does this feel like this is the climax of Egghead, or is this a warm-up fight? And the stream went both ways, right? There was a good amount of people saying that, yeah, I think the poll that I did even had Luffy versus Kizaru being the main fight of Egghead. I think that even won the poll, if I remember, by a certain margin. So it looks like Luffy versus Kizaru at the end of the day really was a warm-up. That is fucking insane. Like, if you told somebody that before Egghead Island started that in this arc it's going to have Luffy, Gear 5th Luffy versus Kizaru, right? You'd be like, holy shit, that's a heavyweight fight. And then if you told them that that is just the warm up, that's the teaser to the big bad boss of the arc, you know, I don't know if I would have believed you. I would have been like, how the fuck, how does that even make sense? Like, an admiral is a perfectly fitting enemy for Luffy at this stage in the story. But Oda has more up his sleeve. I think Oda's ability to always up the stakes more from what you initially expect is in a way that organically makes sense, right? It's not like he just randomly throws shit, you know? I think his ability to up the stakes and just, like, his ability to, one, give readers an interesting plot and an interesting conflict, and then two, like, subvert expectations in a sense by saying, no, you thought that shit was good? That's nothing. Here's the real shit. That was just a joke. I think that is one of his greatest strengths as a mangaka. Because you're never really bored because you're always invested in whatever's going on. But then he's so good at just flipping and being like, but here's the real, like, extravaganza that I was holding behind the curtain or whatever. Like, here's what's really gonna happen. You know, it reminds you of, if you're going back to think about Sabaody Archipelago, right? The first arc that Kizaru showed up. This was back when Kizaru turned out to be the big surprise that Oda was holding behind the curtain, right? Because it's Sabaody. If you go back in time to then, the arc initially seemed really interesting because Oda introduced these 11 supernovas. So many people at that point in time, and I was a youngin' back then, so I was vaguely on, like, checking, like, My Anime List forums and stuff like that, but the idea at the time was like, oh, cool, so the Straw Hats, they're gonna compete with these other rival pirate crews and stuff like that, and maybe each Straw Hat gets a matchup even with one of the rival pirate captains and stuff, and then that suddenly spirals into, you know, you're excited reading that arc thinking they're gonna fight the supernova, and then it's like, who gives a fuck about the supernova? Here's, like, 4 pacifistas, and Bartholomew Kuma, and this guy Sentamaru, and a fucking Marine Admiral, and all of that is just going to be dropped on the Straw Hats' heads. It's definitely one of Oda's greatest strengths, for sure. So that's happening again right here. I mean, we even knew Gorosei Saturn is involved in the arc, but a lot of people were debating, you know, I think the last few chapters it started to feel like, okay, maybe Kizaru really is the big enemy of the arc. I think we're safely past that assumption at this point. But yeah, anyway, Egghead will end before Morj reviews Wano. Sad. No, I think we still got a bit to go in Egghead. Mr. M. No, we covered this. K-Boo, got an NBA draft coming up. Any tips? I know you're top 10. An NBA draft? Got an NBA draft coming up? What are you saying, like fantasy draft? What are you talking about? You're talking about fantasy draft, right? Any tips? I would have to derail stream too much to talk about that, so let's revisit that towards the end of the stream because some interesting stuff has happened on the NBA. But I think at the moment, I would say any tips, I would say just look for, pick guys like Jordan Poole or some shit. Like, not so great players that are going to get a huge role. Jordan Poole's good, but you know what I mean? Like, you know, he's not like a top 10 player in the league, but his production might be like really fucking high. 1 second, catching up. Spade, thanks for being a Yonko cheer member for 12 months. Always good to see you, man. You think we get Kuma's backstory in the next few chapters? Bonnie just stabbed Saturn, so I'm hoping there'll be some dialogue about it next chapter. The Kuma backstory is a really interesting case to me because with the Kuma backstory, I was wondering, I feel like we have to get it in Egghead Island because we are so tightly focusing around Bonnie's story and everything like that right now, where Kuma is currently at Marijua, or no, you know, Kuma's having his own storyline and everything going on concurrently. It feels like it has to happen here. But to me, it felt like the window where it made sense has passed because I assumed that it would happen prior to the Marine invasion, right? During the night where, you know, when Bonnie actually touched his memories and everything like that, I was like, yeah, this is perfect. We get the flashback out of the way, and then we move into the action segment. But Oda was saving it. And I feel like if that's the case, we might get it. I think there's a not so small possibility that the flashback might start right now. Because otherwise, where would it really fit, right? You don't want to get really deep into the fight against Saturn and then have a flashback come in, right? Because I don't know, there's not a good way to really do that. Unless it's the end of Luffy versus Kaido. Where again, it's not a good way to do that, but Oda just had to shove some shit in. But I think most can agree that wasn't exactly one of One Piece's more, it was one of the flashbacks of all time, as the people say. Um, so with that in mind, I'm like the Bonnie Kuma flashback. It's a very emotional one. Maybe it fits right now, because Oda, maybe in Oda's mind or something like that. If we look at the flow of the story, he gave us some good action, like Luffy versus Kizaru just concluded, right? So we got something actiony, something exciting. So and then we got a big reveal, big moment with Saturn's transformation. So maybe Oda thinks that this might be a good moment to pause and just give some emotional context, to dramatic context to everything that's going on, give us the Bonnie backstory, stir up our emotions a little bit, then cut back to the present so that we have, the dramatic conclusion to whoever defeating Saturn. I think that's a solid possibility. Oof, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 2 months. Haven't been around as much as I like, because life stuff. No worries, I 100% understand. Don't even worry about that. Appreciate you always bringing peak content to make us fans feel better, bro. Hope you're doing well. Thank you, I really appreciate that. I appreciate you, everybody who comes in and supports, obviously. Oh, let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Enryu, thanks for being a Yonko member for 5 months. Hope you had a good vacation, Morj. Thank you, but it wasn't... Oh yeah, I'm sorry for missing the stream Monday. It's just... it wasn't a vacation per se. I was out of town visiting a relative of mine, great uncle, basically like my family from Maryland, my dad, my sister, and my mom who's visiting from Malaysia. Basically, it's complicated, but basically my core family went to Florida to visit my great uncle because we have not seen him in a bit. He has a certain condition that makes life very difficult for him, so it was good to go see him. And I obviously went as well, just because I hadn't seen him since 2018, so it was probably overdue, basically. So if the entire family was able to make time to go see him, and I really like it. Like, he's one of the best people that I know, and I'm not gonna go in depth into what his condition is, but it's the way that he's been able to keep his life together and live life, etc. is he's one of the more impressive people that I know, basically. But it's a shame I hadn't seen him in many years. I was like, okay, if they're going for a few days, then I'm just going to make sure that I can take some time to fly over for a few days. So it wasn't vacation. I was in Florida, but we didn't go anywhere in Florida. We just stayed in a tiny little house basically for a few days, and that's it. Now I'm back. Mr. Nkaye, welcome to the Supernova. I think I already said that, but welcome again. Sorry, just reading through everything. All right, let's catch up on these supers real quick. And Kylo D. Swaggly Puff. What a great name. Welcome to the Yonko. Is there any chance that you are a Super Smash Bros. Melee fan? The Swaggly Puff? I don't know. Isho, thanks for the 5. Summoning yourself in a fucking demonic circle gotta be top 5 entrances in One Piece. Remind me, we gotta do a stream at one point of best introductions or best entrances in One Piece. Technically, this isn't his introduction, though. The Gorosei's entrance was really lame. Like, not lame, but this was one of the reasons that... And I was incorrect, obviously, but one of the things I felt was, the Gorosei probably aren't going to be that strong, like stronger than Admirals, just because Oda didn't do a lot when he introduced them, right? He introduced them in a pretty straightforward manner, and actually, the chapter that he introduced them, he was using them to hype up other characters. He was, like, hyping up the Shichibukai meeting, so the Gorosei were the ones who were all like, oh man, the Shichibukai are coming, so the big highlights of the chapter were actually Doflamingo and Kuma, same thing in the anime episode. So, because of that, I'm just like, throughout One Piece, one of the things Oda is amazing at is character introductions. I still think Oda does character introductions better than any other mangaka. No. Scratch that. This is going to sound wild, but I think Oda does character introductions, important character introductions, better than any other writer I've ever seen in anything. In anything. He's got a serious fucking talent for it. I don't know if this is a fun stream topic or like an actual video I'd do at some point, but I genuinely think it's an art form how good he is at introducing characters to make just character introduction scenes a highlight moment of of a certain arc, or like some of the most memorable moments in the entire story. But here's the thing I forgot when I'm talking about the Gorosei, right? Is that there's 2 versions of character introductions, right? There's the ones where Oda's grandiose right off the bat, like Kaido and stuff like that. And then there's others where Oda deliberately does try to downplay a little bit the character initially, right? And make them not seem like, oh, is this guy really a big deal? Case in point being Whitebeard. When we're first, like, Buggy hypes up Whitebeard, the world's strongest man. And then we cut to Whitebeard, and it's this old ass dude with like, he's clearly sickly. He's on fucking life support, and it's like, this is the world's strongest man. And like, he's kind of being a dick. He's ripping up Shanks' letter. You don't like Whitebeard. You don't feel impressed by him initially. It's like, this is One Piece's strongest character. All right. I mean, he's big, but like, he's on life support or whatever, right? But Whitebeard's real introduction was the first chapter that he stepped out in Marineford, chapter like 550, 551 or something like that. And then the first thing Oda has him do is do these, like, literally break it's like he's fucking breaking reality. He does his quake punches, right? That when you first see it, it looks like he's breaking the page or breaking the screen or whatever, but you see cracks in the air. And then the first thing Whitebeard's really doing is kicking off the war with these two giant tsunamis. So that's kind of how I feel like Oda played the Gorosei, where first we're just introduced to these old-ass political dudes standing around in a room. All they really do is talk. Every time we cut back to them, they're talking about some political shit. But the real introduction was this chapter. This is the truth about the Gorosei, right? This is who they really are. So, yeah, I forgot that Oda can sometimes just play us with the character introductions. I'm trying to think of another example of that, like the Whitebeard Gorosei avenue. Because, again, usually Oda gives us something really big for a character introduction that's important, like Mihawk, Aokiji, Kizaru, Fujitora, all the guys, right? Kaido, you know. But, yeah, I really enjoy the twist that we got with the Gorosei, I suppose. Like, we didn't know, for the longest time, like, the Gorosei have been around for, like, 1,000-something chapters, right? And, you know, in the top 30 lists that people have, it's very rare that you ever saw anybody throw in the Gorosei, right? We all just assumed, like, oh, they're not admirals or whatever. But in recent times, right, the last 50 or so chapters, opinions started changing. It was like, maybe they're a bigger deal than we thought. And now it's like, okay, they're a fucking huge deal. All right, Basim El Madawi, thanks for the 5. I think the lack of the devil fruit reveal for Saturn gives me the idea that the Gorosei is from a race of yokai who ate a human devil fruit to fit in. He was so brutal. I don't know about that, but I have seen, like, other ideas being thrown around of the Gorosei not being necessarily devil fruit users, but something else. Because the Pentagon thing is really, really interesting. One thing I'm thinking of right now is that, so the Gorosei were able to transform while they were up in Marijua without any sort of problem, right? But a Pentagon was needed here. And Saturn had a comment, and I want to see the Viz translation as well, but Saturn had a comment, like, it's been a long time since I've been to the surface. Is it possible that the Gorosei can only, like, there's restrictions on their abilities or something like that, and they can only use their powers freely up on Marijua, but down below, there's some restriction or something, and they need to use something to unlock their abilities? I don't know. Bobby D. Blizzard, thanks for the 5. Do we know who the guy with the red hair from the color spread is? The guy for, oh yeah, the color spread. The color spread that reminded me of how much Zoro's story, how bizarre Zoro's fucking story was in Wano. Let me take a look at the color spread again. It's like, I mean, it's just like all these pieces that are technically in Wano, but they're like Yasue we got time with. Yasue, of course, we got time with. But there's all these pieces that are in all these pieces and like little bits. We got these little flashbacks and shit from Wano, but we never, it's not exactly shit that we ever spent time on, you know? So it's kind of like, if you look at this wallpaper, like, sorry, this color spread, it looks as though, man, Zoro got a really epic sort of, like, lore-heavy, very elaborate storyline in Wano. But in reality, it's kind of just like, no, this is mainly just one chapter of him having some flashbacks and then getting Conqueror's Haki, basically. But I guess Oda really liked it enough that I feel like this spread gives the idea of a much richer tale around Zoro and Wano than what it actually was. Because I feel like there's not much difference between Zoro's fight versus King versus Zoro versus Mr. One in Alabasta in terms of the actual character writing around him in the arc. But the red-haired guy, I don't know. To me, that's kind of funny because it's just like, is this another, like, is this just something else that was just left on the cutting room floor? like some other hidden aspect of Zoro's lineage. Maybe that's fucking Pin Zoro. I don't know. GDN, thanks for the 5. Oda intentionally put Luffy and Kizaru on cooldown and had Zoro in a different location. He has Sanji there just to be a hype tool LMFAO. Man, you're not wrong. Definitely not wrong. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Caleb Brown just said, did Saturn make that guy's head explode with hockey? I don't think it was hockey. It would be fucking insane if it was hockey, because then that's just a whole different level of hockey that we've never seen. I feel like that's related to his... It feels more like a satanic ability, and that kind of feels like what they're going for right here. I think it's also interesting, you know, we got the Pentagon to unveil Saturn. That gives greater idea to the fact that they're... Greater meaning to the idea that they're 5 Elder Stars, like 5 Gorosei. The idea that, you know, Imu's really like the devil and stuff like that. And Sabo talking about how, oh, you know, who would have thought that there's hell all the way up here at the top of the world, right? They're really going hard on the whole satanic idea here. 1 second real quick. Senpai Bruce says, yo Morj, Sanji hold off Saturn, Luffy and Kizaru fight, run into theirs, and it's 2v2 till Zoro finish off Luffy, and it's 3v2 till Frankie get him. I feel like Saturn's gonna have some really interesting abilities that will require some level of a team effort to beat him. Not necessarily like Saturn's gonna be stronger than Kaido or something like that, but you know, we've seen this in One Piece arcs plenty of times before. Like, Luffy will beat a strong character, and then next arc he'll fight some subordinate that's just like a difficult, tricky matchup that might require some extra stuff. Like, you know, like Luffy versus Satori or something like that. Luffy and Sanji and Usopp and stuff versus Satori. Because I feel like Saturn might just have some really strange abilities to deal with. Because we can already see, like, it's not the same as Kaido, right? Bonnie can stab Saturn. Bonnie, as far as we can tell, doesn't have some advanced level of haki or something like that, right? So if Bonnie right away can stab Saturn, I don't think that Saturn is necessarily going to be as physically strong as Kaido. Might be speaking too soon there, but it looks like Saturn has some crazy abilities if it can just make somebody's head explode. So I wouldn't be surprised if Saturn's a very difficult and tricky opponent to deal with at the end of the day. But if it ends up being a team effort, I would like Sanji to be used not just as a hype tool, but actually be able to contribute in some way. Mr. Nkaye, thanks for the 5. LMAO, it's Mr. Nkaye. Nkaye like NK. How am I saying it? NK. Mr. NK. It's Mr. NK like NK. Oh. Also, Nuclear Theory, Hattori is Lafitte. Hattori's Lafitte? I thought you were going to say Hattori's Devon. I was like, I could at least maybe get behind that. Hattori is Devon. Wait, then what did... No. Then what did Devon do to Hattori? If Devon heard Hattori, then she's a pretty fucked up character. Let's just say that. Kino the Far, good to see you. Not really. Let's see how your story's evolved. Morky Moo, I picked up my car from the shop and it started smoking on the way home. I picked up my car from the shop and the battery died. How are you not broke? You've been saying you've been having cash troubles for a while. Now you got to fix your car for a 4th time. Sorry to hear your stories, Key to the Far, but you know, best of luck. Manifest Joe, thanks for the 2. Whole crew fight Saturn like Oars would be cool. I don't know if Saturn warrants a whole crew fight. Dude, if Saturn warrants a whole crew fight, then how the fuck is Luffy ever beating Imu? But it is interesting to think that we could be in for a crew fight again, which I would really like to see. I just don't know how many Straw Hats would be required, how difficult it would be. It is a good point that Luffy's out of commission for a moment, so Saturn will get to flex for a bit before, you know, Luffy gets back on the scene. Kino the Far, thanks to the 5. No, we covered this. No. It's a new comment. So I bought a new battery and finally have a car. Surfshark VPN, Morj Store, Yonko Podcast. Yes, shout-outs to all of these things. And shout-outs to Manscaped. Shout-outs to Manscaped. If you guys want to try Manscaped, because let's be honest, a lot of you, I assume, could try some changes to your appearance. Manscaped is great. They send you basically everything you would need to cultivate a good beard. Send you the best beard trimmer in the world. They send you oils. They send you beard shampoo. They send you all sorts of complicated shit. If you want Manscaped, you know what? I'm going to pin it right now. Because you guys can get some pretty...
Accentuate your jawline. You can hide.
Sorry, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to pin this. Just because you're not really asking, but, you know, you reminded me and that's good enough. If you want Manscaped, you can go up there, get a huge ass discount. You get free shipping, free international shipping. You get 2 free gifts. Just you go click that link, use the promo code Morj. Click that link, use the promo code Morj. You're gonna get some good deals. And honestly, you know, if you've ever wanted to try out having a beard, or if you ever want to fix up your beard, or if you just want to look better in general, there's no reason not to try Manscaped. Heavily encourage it. Give it a shot. Where are we at? We catch up on supers real quick. Jackson Steele, thanks for the 2. Saturn destroy Frankie. Vegapunk rebuild him. No, we already covered that. Where am I at? Oh, okay. So, okay. Okay, we're past the dumb comments. Luke the DJ, thanks for the 2. Love Saturn's design. Can't wait to see the other 4. Yeah, I mean now we got 4. So we've got 4 other really cool character designs to look forward to, plus Emu himself, right? And whatever Emu's mythical Zoan is gonna be, because I think at this point it's pretty much definite it's mythical Zoan, right? Who would have thought that Zoans would be the strongest type of fruit at the end of the day? I mean, Logia are still, Logia, but yeah. Poor Paramecia. I remember like once Whitebeard's fruit was revealed to be a Paramecia, that was pretty cool because it was just like, it was just once Paramecias were always kind of considered the weakest fruit, and then once Whitebeard, the strongest man, was revealed to be a Paramecia user, it was pretty cool. It was like, holy shit, Paramecias are the best. And then so the ranking kind of shifted around to be like, okay, Paramecias have the highest potential, but then Logias are the best on average. And then Zoans, Zoans are still cool. Like, Marco's a Zoan, right? But Zoans are not quite there. As the New World has gone on, we've lost some good Paramecias, right? Luffy's no longer Paramecia. He's a Zoan. Strongest characters in the world, a lot of them seem to be Zoans. The ones remaining are Logia users, or they just use Haki. It is a tough day for Paramecia users. Kino the Far says, Morj, you didn't read the last part of my super chat. It was about One Piece. Oh, shit. It was about One Piece. I'm sorry. I'm just so conditioned to you saying stupid stuff that I missed it. Kino the Far says, do you think we're leaving Egghead with a new crewmate? No. I don't think anyone is joining. Like, I don't think we're going to leave Egghead with someone being a Straw Hat, but I definitely think we could be leaving Egghead with some other people on the ship, right? Vegapunk already, you could pretty much pencil him in. I think Bonnie, I would not be surprised if she's on the ship leaving Egghead. But I don't know if we're at a point yet where Luffy would be like, you're part of my crew now, JP, thanks for the 5. If Saturn kills based on eye contact, reminds me of Naruto, where you can look at Sharingan users and have to read movement based on feet. Where you can't look at Sharingan users and have to read movement based on feet. So one thing we've learned is that, strong Haki cancels out Devil Fruit effects like that, right? So I wonder if if Luffy would be affected by some. I doubt Luffy or Zoro and such would be affected by that. So now any sort of effects that are kind of crazy like that, I take with a bit of a grain of salt, because I'm like, yeah, that works on random Marine Soldier number 10, but would it work on Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, stuff like that? I don't know about that. I think that Saturn's probably got more than just the eye ability thing, but if it was Naruto, then that would make for an interesting sort of fight if they have to figure out a way to fight Saturn. Well, One Piece has it built in with observation Haki. They should be able to just close their eyes and beat Saturn, or fight Saturn if they can't look at him. Word to you, man. Thanks for the 5. What do you think of the black spirals on Garcia? Just like Luffy has in Gear 4th. Haki and Devil Fruits must interact in some way we don't know about yet. That is an interesting point. Let me take a look again. It's cool that we got 2 really great spreads of him in this chapter. Well, I guess the first one's not really a spread, it's just a big reveal on a page, right? Like a page dedicated to his reveal. But then we get another page that also shows off yeah, like his full body plus a lot of characters at the last page of the chapter. I think the art is a little bit better in the final page, but obviously the first page has that wow factor of the first time reveal. So anyway, as for the patterns, I'm not gonna read into that just too much just yet. I mean, because I don't know, like with Luffy's, that stuff was hockey, you know. With Saturn, I don't know if it's hockey or if it's just like a cool design aspect of the monster that he's turned into. Gaimon the Tall. Thanks for the 5. Do you think Saturn gives Sanji a permanent scar? Of the monster trio, he's the only one without a story-earned scar, and his Germa powers just got emphasis. I think part of it, though, is that because he's got the Germa powers, he's a really sturdy, durable character now. So I don't know if he'd even get a scar, right? He should be the most physical... Like, I think it should take the most to... He should be the most physically tough of the monster trio in a way. In a way, right? Like, I'm not saying... Like, basically, like, you know, the Jinbei Seraphim punched him in the face and he didn't move an inch, right? If Zoro took a punch from the Jinbei Seraphim, it's gonna... Like... He's gonna... I don't know. Well, I don't want to get too much into that, but you guys get what I'm saying? Like, Sanji, you know, he just straight up tanked a slash from Queen and it didn't even nick him. You know what I mean? I think Luffy and Zoro, their exteriors just factually are not as tough as that. So I think Sanji getting a scar is the least likely. But if he did get a scar, I think it should in some way be something more meaningful than just like a random encounter with the Gorosei. Like something more meaningful to him. Obviously this is it's a huge encounter, but something more along his storyline, because Luffy and Zoro's scars, they mean quite a bit, right? Like Luffy's scar is from losing his brother, and his eye scar is basically trying to, like, it goes back to him as a child, like shaping his dream and kind of gaining an understanding of the world, etc., right? Like the scar is representative of, like, the eye scar is representative of something, the chest scar is representative of something, Zoro's chest scar is representative of something, Zoro's eye scar is representative of something, like his like 2 years with Mihawk and stuff. So if you get a scar, I think it should always mean something. So I think Sanji would need something more relevant to a story to get a scar. Old Faithful, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 5 months. Could the Florian Triangle monster be Emu? The silhouettes match a bit. I don't think so. I think the Florian Triangle monster, I've said this forever, I just think that was a thing that is meant to never be figured out, because it's just like a fun horror movie type tease. Like, you never know what's out there in the Grand Line. I don't think at the end of the day we're supposed to know every little detail about the Grand Line. Like, some stuff I think will just be, it's cool that it just exists, right? Like, you remember we got to that, like, that lady who's offering an umbrella at the Lightning Island, or the UFO that sucked up Capone Beige. I don't know if we're supposed to ever figure out everything in the Grand Line, you know? Duck20, thanks for the 5. I feel like Jujutsu Kaisen has no emotional impact anymore. Also, it'd be cool for each elder to have a mythical devil fruit from different cultures. Ooh, from different cultures. Because what I understand is that this is like a Ushi... What is this? It's called an Ushi Oni. Ushi Oni, right? So this is Japanese, right? So I don't know if there's anything to suggest that each one will be from different cultures, because the only one we have so far is Japanese, so I'd be more inclined to just guess that they're all going to be Japanese. As for Jujutsu Kaisen, I don't think, to me personally, I don't think Jujutsu Kaisen was ever an emotional series. Like, I don't think it was ever an emotionally moving series. I don't think there's ever been a single... Yeah, I just never read or watched Jujutsu Kaisen for any level of emotional impact. I don't think that's that series' specialty by any means. It just was never a series like that for me. So, you say it doesn't have emotional impact anymore, but to me it's like, you know, I just don't know if it ever really had that. I think Gojo's death is something that can be freely talked about at this point, because the whole world knows about it. I think it would be ridiculous to pretend otherwise. But the way that scene was written, it's not a tearjerker scene, right? If you go read it, something like Ace's death, that's a whole, like, one, it's built around a relationship. Like, we have a whole arc of emotion building towards that, because you're following the main character who, for 50 straight chapters, is like going through so much emotional turmoil, like so much emotional stress and just a roller coaster of feelings, etc., trying to get to his brother, right? So we're already building towards a sort of emotional crescendo, And then Ace's death, you feel a lot because you feel for Luffy, and then you also get a full chapter just diving into flashbacks, like childhood flashbacks, like character flashbacks, things that the character feels, their desires, their insecurities, etc., like everything that made them who they are, etc. And then that cuts to basically how Ace's story closed, right? There's a lot of effort there to make it emotional, right? Jujutsu Kaisen is not written like that. Like, that's not the goal, I think, with Gojo's death. It was more so just the shock value, the sense of, wow, this character really died, a sort of reflective moment for the character, and taking it like, I guess, a sort of internal, I guess, reflection and like bit of consideration of his own sense of identity and philosophy, basically, before he said sayonara and like left the world. But that's not supposed to be like an emotional scene. So different stories attempt to do different things. I think that there's very few shonen manga that can try and compete with what Oda does in terms of emotion. You know, one of the ones that could back in the day, in my opinion, was Naruto. Kalal Brown, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 3 months. Hey Morj, this is the first time we've a Zone Devil Fruit reveal without getting the name of it. I wonder if the Gorosei get their powers from Im might explain the summoning circle. This is the first time we've a Zone Devil Fruit reveal without getting the name of it. I wonder if the Gorosei get their powers from Im might explain the summoning circle. Get their powers from Im. But the thing with the summoning circle is that we still don't we don't know, like, they didn't have to use that in Marijoa, but maybe that's because of proximity to Im? That would be interesting. So would it be the Gorosei Saturn is like making a deal with the devil or something like that? That would be really interesting if he's making a deal with the devil, like creating the pentagram and Im being the devil, right? Symbolically, literally, or whatever you want to spin it. He makes a deal with the devil, gets gifted some abilities, and is able to fight with that. That would be really fucking cool. I really love that idea. Kalal Brown, big props for that. I think that's a really interesting idea. Because that would also explain why they would be able to use it in Marijoa freely, because Im's right there. Where are we at? Hoops, thanks for the 5. If Egghead is mirroring SA, I don't think the Strahds are going to Elbaf. I don't think it's mirroring Sabaody in the sense that, like, they're going to lose. It seems like we're going to get a big detour before then. But how can we get a big detour, just time-wise? Like, in my mind, Egghead itself is a big detour, because when we were entering the final saga, it's like, okay, Oda's trying to wrap up the story. He said from his own mouth he's trying to wrap up the story. So what are the final destinations that we have to hit? Elbaf, Laugh Tale, probably Marijoa. Those are the must-see destinations, right? And then Oda's like, here's Egghead Island, an island you never fucking heard of before. It's like, okay, guess we're doing that. So if we detour from Egghead to which in itself, in my mind, is a giant detour out of the blue that is phenomenal, by the way, but it is a giant detour from the perspective of, like, okay, the islands that make sense for us to hit. If we detour from that detour to another detour, then how are we ever going to finish the story? We're looking at basically One Piece ending around chapter 1500. I feel like Elbaf has to be next. Or, like, close to, like, unless it's the most I don't know. You guys get what I'm saying? Like, this is already turning into a long-ass arc. Like, Luffy versus Kizaru, that was just the appetizer, right? We're finally getting to the real meat of it. Just now. Like, 30 chapters into Egghead. VarpTM says, thanks for the 5. Disgusting how people defend Toei's business practices when it ruins the pacing, the audience experience, overworking animators, and diminishes the story. Because you're bringing it up, I'll just say it. I saw on Twitter that Toei is not doing a filler arc. Like, just the fucking shamelessness of this fucking company. And I've heard people say it's not Toei, it's like the fucking channel that it, like, it's the thing that Toei works for or whatever. I'm like, I don't care. Whichever fucking corporation it is, whichever one it is, that's the one I'm upset with, alright? The fact that the anime production in general is so shameless that, like, you're completing this entire arc of Wano, which is horrendously paced, and now you're gonna go into the, like, it's the perfect point where you can have just a few filler like not even a few. I don't know how much effect a few would have, but you could have a filler arc. Just have a filler arc in between. Like there's no other point in the story that is going to logistically make sense to have a filler arc, right? You just closed a big arc. You're about to enter into the final saga where a bunch of shit is going to happen. There's no other point where you can have a filler arc. Do it here if you have any respect for the viewer experience whatsoever. And they're not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. It's like so ridiculously shameless. And the reason they're able to get away with it, and this is the reason I dislike people who are diehard anime fans, etc., is because the diehard anime fans are enablers. A business is going to do whatever it is able to get away with, right? So if a business realizes that, hey, we don't have to come up with a filler arc, we can just produce the canonical content and at just a awful, atrocious, disgusting, ridiculously bad pace, and the viewers will still mindlessly eat it up. If a business realizes that, if they realize that they don't need to put in the effort to create a filler arc to then create a better canonical product, they can just make a shitty canonical product and skip the effort of creating a filler arc, then they're going to do that. So that's why I, to some degree, dislike the diehard anime fans, because it's like, the reason the anime production is able to get away with this is because of you fuckers. Because you don't care how atrociously paced an episode is. You don't care if it's adapting 0.5 chapters per episode. You will eat it up and call it the best anime of all time. What if they start doing like 3 pages per episode or something like that? You'll probably still call it great. You know, they can keep getting away with it. They can keep getting away with like just shitting on Oda's work and like dragging it out, making no effort to create a filler arc to space things out and actually improve the pacing. And they're going to shit all over the final saga, and there's just nothing to be done about it. So, you know, that's the problem. I view anime viewers, like the diehard anime viewers, as basically enablers. That's what they are. If everybody just stopped watching this anime, then Toei would probably realize that they need to up their game a little bit. Make some filler. Do something to fix the pacing to make shit watchable. I don't know. Fading Phase, thanks for the 5. Love you, Morj. Do you think the Gorosei are literal demons, no devil fruit? And it would explain their possible immortality, symbolism, etc. I am getting the sense that it's very possible that these are not just normal devil fruit powers. Literal demons, I'm really curious as to how long the Gorosei have been around, is the thing. I don't know as to, like, because they could easily be devil fruit abilities, because it's like the Ushi Ono creature or whatever that it seems to be, right? So that would be a mythical zone. It fits that category. But the whole pentagram thing is what's really interesting, because that's clearly different than other devil fruit abilities. So I'm going to lean towards, because it sounds exciting, I'm going to lean towards the possibility that these are not actual devil fruit users, but maybe it's something else, maybe something a little new to the story. Let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. Timothy McQueen, thanks for the 5. Vegapunk and Frankie are pretty normal people when it comes to One Piece magic. How are their heads not going to explode? Ooh, I get what you're saying there. One, I don't think that Saturn wants to kill Vegapunk like the Stella... Wait, does he? I forget. He just needs York. But maybe it would be in his best interest not to just kill Saturn right now. Because, what am I talking about? The mission is literally to kill the Stella. Why am I thinking that it's possible that Saturn wouldn't just kill Stella on the spot? I don't know. Fuck. I guess because he's distracted right now. It looks like we're going to get some other stuff, right? So Bonnie's stabbing Saturn. We might get a flashback. We might get Sanji interference or something like that. So, yeah, it's very possible Saturn could just kill Vegapunk or Frankie, but I don't think that we're going to get that. I wouldn't be surprised. See, Atlas, like, we've got other Vegapunks here. I'm beginning to realize the Vegapunk bodies are basically just cannon fodder for deaths in this arc, which I'm actually okay with at this point, because it gives some sense of, the most minute sense of stakes, like actual death stakes that you can have, which I'm okay with at the end of the day, right? Like, normally a One Piece arc like this, I wouldn't even expect anyone to die. So if you're having some characters that we've gotten mildly attached to dying off here and there, you know, it's cool. Like, you can have some bodies hit the floor, right? So Atlas is right here. I think it'd be cool if Saturn killed Atlas. That could be good. Yeah, I think if anyone's... I'm looking at the spread right now. I think if anyone's going, it's Atlas. Hans Ding, thanks to the 5. Kaido flashback is good thematically. Yeah, I mean, something can be good thematically, but is it at a good point in the story? Does it, like, actually take you... Okay, I'll read the rest of your comment. Ties Dofi for Celestial Dragon, ties in Big Mom for Soldier Child, ties in Whitebeard for Poor Country, and Neko Speech. Yeah, but that's just a concept. That's just a concept. That's not how you judge a flashback, right? Theme is just like the idea. Basically, you just say, oh, is there a good idea behind this flashback or this character's past? Cool, that's it. I don't think anyone's complaining about the themes of Kaido's flashback. I do think that you could have worked in more of Kaido's overall philosophy that we got some more insight into in the flashback. You could have worked that in much better into his actual character storyline that we actually got throughout the arc, because I felt like that side of it was a little bit weak. Like his whole philosophy of like why strength is needed to basically fix his version of like inequality or equality, whatever, in the world, fix the sort of class system that he sees. We got a little bit of that for him throughout the arc. We got a little bit more shoehorned in my opinion, through his flashback, but it gave some more depth to his character, so I was like, okay, cool. But in general, like, that's not the reason people like call it a bad flashback, you know, like it's not just like, oh, I have a good idea, therefore it's a good flashback, right? Basically, what you just wrote in like 4 sentences, that's not a good flashback automatically, just me reading those 4 sentences. It's how the whole thing is written out, right? How do you draw the readers into that story? How do you give weight to that story, you know? Is it just, oh no, the villain's about to die, let me just make sure that they get this like quick little tidbit about him so that there's some added little meaning to him going down right here, and add some more meaning to maybe, or like to some of the other ideas that I've written into characters' storylines in the past, you know? That's not really, that's basically just bad in my opinion. And I think pretty much anybody that would treat One Piece as like a serious bit of literature, right, by any standard of that would obviously just be bad. JS, thanks for the 2. Saturn destroy Frankie. No, we covered this. Leo Recto, would this be similar to how Blackbeard was introduced? Don't seem like much, but turns out to be a big threat. Would fit the hidden evil dictatorship vibe too. No, because for me with Blackbeard, the chapter that he's introduced, it creates like an iconic iconic Blackbeard defining moment, which is a man's dream never ends. One of the most important moments of One Piece, right? So what I'm saying is not necessarily like, oh, it needs to be a really intimidating or cool moment for the character, or like intimidating or badass moment for the character, but a moment that really is a scene that sort of is impactful in some way, right? Impactful or communicates something really powerful about the character, what they're supposed to, like the aura or presence that they're supposed to give off every time they're on screen, right? So with Blackbeard, you know, like the Gorosei's introduction certainly didn't do that. Whitebeard, you know, he's introduced with the title of World's Strongest Man, but it feels underwhelming almost because he's on life support, so it's kind of just like, why is he the world's strongest man? With Blackbeard, it's the perfect scene because I think the whole scene actually encapsulates how we're supposed to view him as a character and really leaves a very strong impression and memory in the viewer's brain, because it's like this random guy in the bar that like Luffy's squabbling with but seems similar to him in some way. Like, he's so unassuming, but then the chapter ends and it's like, holy, like, this random dude in the bar just delivered one of the most important quotes in One Piece and one of the most iconic spreads in One Piece, and you're never going to forget this random dude in the bar, which communicates so much about Blackbeard. It's like this dude who just goes under the radar, but there's so much more underneath the surface. And you can tell right from that scene, right from the moment where he says that to Luffy, right, that this dude is going places, right? You can tell that this dude is like, even if he's not recognized yet, maybe even less recognized than Luffy, this guy's not going away, and he's going to be a huge part of whatever the hell else is coming, and you want to learn more about him, right? Noah Phillips, thanks for the 5. Bluegrass is strongest in verse. Hear me out. Whoever is the strongest in verse, Bluegrass can ride them. Pretend hockey can't prevent that. Checkmate. You know what's sad? There was a time that we could have said that, like, that little addition of pretend hockey can't pretend that, or can't prevent that. Pretend hockey can't prevent that. That used to not be a thing. And I wish we could kind of go back to that. It makes sense that Oda wrote that in, that, okay, some of these broke abilities can just be canceled out with hockey, because otherwise it's like, you'd honestly be somewhat right. Like, this random ass character Bluegrass could just ride Kaido or Saturn or whoever the fuck and just be one of the strongest characters in the world, right? And that kind of fucks up a lot of the way that One Piece works. Therefore, you know, it's it's, you know, Oda has to write in a counter to that, right? Which is hockey. So I get it. Oh, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. Did I miss a? Thought I missed something. Will, thanks for being a member for 4 months. A Yonko tier member for 4 months. Next power scaling video when? Any tips for manscaping my balls? I have not used Manscaped for my balls, so I can't give you feedback on that. I got the beard grooming kit, but you know what? I'm sure it works the same way. You know, just what's the difference? No, okay. GDN, thanks for the 2. So were none of the Yonko or Admirals awakened? We're getting to a point where it's possible that none of the... No, come on. Kizaru has awakening. We gotta believe, right? He just didn't get there in the fight, but he still gotta have awakening, right? The arc's not over yet. I believe we're gonna see more out of Kizaru. We're gonna see some Devil Fruit awakening. I believe. Stormfox, thanks for the 2. Will the Elders have demons from all over the earth? So some people were talking about that. I'm just gonna make the quick assumption that it's just gonna be... that it's mainly gonna be Japanese. Just because... I mean, the Ushioni is a Japanese creature, right? So it's like, well, it could be monsters from all over the world, but... the one thing we're looking at is a Japanese creature, so I don't know. Like, Kaido was an Eastern dragon that was based off of, like, the myth of the koi fish that goes up the river and stuff. Like, Yamato was... We've just been getting a lot of Eastern-based mythical zones so far, right? Yamato is also something like that. Sengoku's the Buddha. I mean, again, this is all Eastern stuff, right? Not, like, Japanese necessarily, but Eastern. Marco's the only really prominent mythical zone that I can think of. Like, Katarina Devon's a nine-tailed fox, right? Marco's the only zone I can think of prominently that is the Phoenix. Like, I assume the Phoenix is more Western, but maybe it's more universal. So I'm just getting used to mythical zones generally having a Japanese skew. Dragon Pahar, thanks for the 5. Looks like the Nightmare Fruit theory gains ground. Also looks like Saturn has the Ushioni fruit. Fruits born from nightmares and despair. So that's kind of connecting two of the ideas. I think that that's very possible. I don't know if like somebody suggested that these Gorosei are all products of Imu's abilities, in which case the Nightmare Fruit would make sense, that he's able to give out nightmarish abilities. So I like that possibility. Eric Trelato says, Morj, can you help me use the Manscaped? Eric's you got a beard, right? You got a beard. You can figure it out. JWP, thanks for the 10. 5 Elder Stars translation makes more sense now. It does. The 5 Elder Stars translation really does make more sense. I love it. Talha, thanks for the 2. Jinbei's fat... Oh, that's my favorite comment from this stream so far. Jinbei's fat ass just walks around. He played y'all. You all remember I used to really dislike Jinbei? And now it's difficult for me to dislike Jinbei because he's just too fucking neutral to really dislike. Plus the added bonus that he's Indian. But I feel like you did just drop a pretty good point there. Which is, what the fuck is Jinbei doing? What does he even do? You know? It's like, at least be used as a hype tool. Like, at least have the courtesy to be used as a hype tool, like Sanji is, you know? Don't just stand around. What the fuck is he doing? It is... I don't... yeah. What the fuck is he doing? JP, thanks for the 5. At this rate, the ancient robot will be like Zunisha, being used for cliffhangers but not do anything and just leave at the end. Oh, if the ancient robot pulls a Zunisha and just leaves at the end, that'd be so funny. But I think it'll be used. I think it seems important to the storyline. JWP, thanks for the 5. Also, Yamato is definitely awakened. Minimum retroactively, if not always. Wait a second. I forgot, but you're right. Why the what the fuck? What the fuck? Why is... What? Why is Yamato awakened but Kaido is not? why are none of the beast pirates awakened? Why is not a single one of them awakened? What does Ulti need to do that Kaku did? I don't understand. And it's not like the beast pirates had no idea. Like, fucking Yamato could do it, and she didn't learn from anybody, right? So, am I crazy? What's going on here? Can anybody explain this? Can anyone explain? Repeat that says streams without hating Wano. 0. Okay, I understand. But look, what am I supposed to say to that? Am I just supposed to be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, Yamato is awakened. That seems totally natural that she's awakened, despite the fact that her father is not awakened and not a single other member of the Beast Pirates are awakened, so there's not a single person that could fucking teach her, yet she's able to do it anyway, which means that awakening can't be that fucking hard, and fucking Kaku is awakened. Like, what am I supposed to say? Like, oh, this is all perfectly normal. Like, if awakening is a huge fucking deal in One Piece, and a huge deal in Wano, in fact, the entire climax of Wano was about Luffy awakening his Devil Fruit, and we at the same time somehow never got an actual explanation of what the fuck awakening really means, or like what it like really entails, or why certain characters are able to do it or not, aside from one very vague quote from Kaido that does not explain why not a single Beast Pirate member is able to do it, yet Yamato and fucking Kaku and all these random ass characters are able to do it without any sort of explanation whatsoever. Like, I don't know. Am I just supposed to be like, oh yeah, that all perfectly makes a bunch of sense, right? Like, awakening itself is a huge fucking deal in the story, completely unexplained, almost as unexplained as Haki, which also is a huge deal in Wano. What am I supposed to say? Like, how am I supposed to broach this conversation subject and talk about this super chat without being, like, am I just supposed to say, like, oh yeah, Yamato is awakened. Great, perfect, amazing. Wano, 10 out of 10, right? This is an obvious, weird-ass plot point in that arc. And it's a very minor thing, too, by the way. Because, like, in my opinion, Wano's bigger flaws are much more deeply entrenched in terms of how the themes are written, the narrative structure, obviously, tension, character writing, etc. But it's just the fact that even when you get to the minor nitty-gritty shit where you're like, yeah, well, Wano at least was good for fights and power-ups, it's like, yeah, it had cool fights and power-ups, like, Luffy got Gear 5th, and that's cool, but at the same time, even that aspect of it, the action aspect, so many of the power-ups in Wano that were the huge central, probably best aspect of it, even that shit is just really vaguely written and poorly explained, to the point that, to this day, we're fucking past Wano, we're deep into the next arc, to this day, we still don't know when the fuck characters are using Advanced Conqueror's Haki, the power-up that Wano was pretty much all about, and we're still fucking confused why some characters can use Awakening and arbitrarily can't, and that, again, was largely what the climax of the entire Wano arc was about. So, you get what I'm saying? Like, even when you look at Wano's best shit, it's just fucking confusing that, like, why is even the best shit just such sloppy writing at the same time? I don't know. Ray Chia, thanks for the 2. Have you watched the Bleach Core 2 finally? I did. Let me tell you, I'm loving Bleach 1000 Year Blood War. It is the anime that I'm most looking forward to getting its next core. That is not a single, I got nothing to say about Bleach. The only problem with Bleach at the end of the day is this 1000 Year Blood War stuff is the writing. All right. But even that is being ironed out a bit. You know, Kubo gets a rewrite, so he gets to fix some things and stuff, like such as how certain characters' showings and such are, right? Like the time and detail and attention given to characters, you know, like not just rushing things, etc. That's good. Bleach dialogue will at the end of the day always be Bleach dialogue. Sometimes it's cool, other times it's kind of really fucking like 14-year-old, like just what a 14-year-old would think would be really, really cool and edgy and like badass to have characters say back and forth. Like Bleach characters are basically just always trying to throw the coolest one-liner back and forth at each other, and it's just like, you thought this, but why would you think this when I'm like this and you are merely like that? And the other person basically spits that sentence back at them, but in a more convoluted way, as though they said something like really, really fucking clever, like the most amazing comeback of all time, and then character B, some other shit happens and they come back with their own comeback, which is some really convoluted spin on what you said and stuff. Like, so Bleach's writing, it's really, really dumb and like stupid in many, many parts, right? But at the same time, I feel like that's ironed out a little bit with Thousand Year Blood War. And the bigger thing is, Thousand Year Blood War is a fucking trip to watch. It is so beautiful. It is so fucking, like, how do I explain this? In terms of action series that I've seen, it is maybe the most artistically done action anime that I've ever seen, right? What's going on in Thousand Year Blood War right now. Especially the entire finale, the last couple episodes of Thousand Year Blood War. So beautiful, just draws you in with amazing imagery, right? Even if the quality of animation doesn't always hit something like, let's say, Demon Slayer in terms of like just how vivid it is or attention to detail, that's not everything that matters in animation, right? The actual imagery and the ideas that are presented and the visuals that really stick in your brain, it's beautiful. Like, I feel like I'm watching, you know, like some sort of a dream sequence when I watched that last episode of Thousand Year Blood War. It felt like it was a huge battle scene, but the entire thing felt surreal. It really felt like I was watching a battle happening inside a dream. It is so, so, so beautiful. Thousand Year Blood War, hard recommended. I would say hard recommended. Thousand Year Blood War is beautiful. I'm glazing? Come on now. I've said so much shit, negative shit about Thousand Year Blood War in the past. I think that there's nothing that, like, you know that I'm coming into Bleach already with the mindset that this is dumb and I don't think it's good, right? So if you've got me sitting there watching the final episodes of Thousand Year Blood War and just being like, this is legitimately beautiful. This is the most, like, some of the most mesmerizing action sequences, like battles that I've seen, just in terms of the abstract concepts of what visually were being shown, right? I feel like there's no, like, I feel like despite my my views of Bleach, I'm kind of being forced to, like, just tip my hat and be like, this shit is really, really, really good, you know? So I don't know, take that as you will. If you're that dug into saying that Bleach is bad, you could say Bleach is bad, but I'd say you're missing out if you're not watching Thousand Year Blood War. You're missing out on some phenomenal stuff. Storm Fox, thanks for the 2. Each star will be a demon from a different culture. Why am I seeing so much so many theories that it's going to be a different culture? Because the culture that we got is Japanese, which is kind of basically the default culture. So why would it necessarily be that all of the demons, like all of the Gorosei, are going to be from different cultures? Like, what are people basing that off of? I wouldn't be upset if that's the case. Like, that would be cool. Like, if we got some Greek monsters or something like that, or some, you know, like fucking Chupacabra or something. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of the mythical zones have been skewing towards Japanese or generally Eastern cultures. So I don't know if we're gonna get something like that. Noah Phillips says, I just started rereading Jujutsu Kaisen since I stopped reading at around chapter 170 last year. Thank you for spoiling God freaking damn it. Did I I mean, I know I don't know if you're being serious right now, but I am very, very sorry if that's the case. But, like, I just assumed, I felt like literally every single person on the planet who has ever seen anything, right? Like, unless you're literally never on social media or YouTube, but people, you clearly are if you're in the stream, I just didn't think it would be even possible not to know that that happened. Like, I didn't talk about it the day, like, the day that chapter came out or anything like that. Like, I made it clear in that stream that I'm going to only talk about that shit towards the end. So I tried to take a lot of measures during the stream when the chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen came out to not spoil anybody, even though most people were spoiled at that point. But it's been like a month or like several weeks since then. So I guess I kind of was just like, at this point it's so talked about that maybe I just assumed that, yeah, obviously everybody knows what happened. But obviously that's not the right way to look at things because it is a very recent chapter. I guess it's one of those things where I just thought that literally anybody who watches anything anime manga related period would obviously know at this point. especially anybody who watches like YouTube streams and stuff. But that is, I'm sorry, man. Sorry about that. There's not really much else I can do about that. I'm sorry. I can just try and do better in the future. I know that I have spoiled people in the past, but I've been trying to do changes over time to just like, okay, try and set aside segments to talk about this stuff, etc. But at the end of the day, this one, I just assume that like not a single person at this point would not know that happened. So that's my mistake. Sorry about that. Fuck. And then the next one's King G says, watch a One Piece stream and get spoiled on Jujutsu Kaisen. Nice. Sorry. All right. Got to be more disciplined. It's got to be more disciplined going forward in streams. Sorry about that. If it helps, most people didn't even like how it happened. If that helps, so you saved yourself an unpleasant surprise, I don't know. But I know that that's a shitty response to that. Yeah. We'll keep that in mind going forward. No Jujutsu Kaisen spoilers outside of specifically sanctioned Jujutsu Kaisen segments. Sleeping Danger, thanks for the donation. Sabo surviving gets crazier every day. It's plot stuff. It's like Law and Beppo fucking survived a Yonko attack, you know, when it was just Beppo left, basically, against probably the best sniper in the world who has a teleportation ability, and a character who has an ability that is literally gravitational pull that should allow him to drag characters back, and also an earthquake fruit that should literally make travel by sea or escape by sea physically impossible. So, you know, I don't think it's that crazy that Sabo escaped. If people want to start spinning that as like a feat for Sabo, I'm just like, okay, well then Sabo scales to Beppo, because I put those feats at about the same level. McDonald's, thanks for the 5. Kuma's will brings him to save Bonnie, tying back to the Sea Beast. Kuma's will brings him to save Bonnie, tying back to the Sea Beast. Oh, Kuma coming all the way to... That's the thing, though. Does that mean that Kuma was not at... Does that mean that Kuma was back... Like, why did he have to go to the Red Line? So does that mean that he was in Paradise first? And he can't travel over the Red Line, so basically he had to travel to the Red Line and then go over it, then be able to go to the New World. Is that the reason why? Christian Barraza, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 5 months. There's no just explanation. At least the calamities should have been awakened. I guess awakened ancient Zoans would have been too OP. Would they, though? Because, like, at the end of the day, it's just, like... I don't even think that much if a character is awakened or not, or if a character is an ancient Zoan or not an ancient Zoan. You know, like, I'm sure Kaku's just a giraffe, but I feel like he could probably be on the same level as a Toby Roper or something. You know, like, a strong character is just like, the line, we're at a point where it's just like the line between a Zoan and an ancient Zoan, it just doesn't mean that much to me. Like, there's so many characters that have no Zoan fruit at all and just normal people and that are physically way stronger than any of those Zoans, you know? So, to me, I don't know if that would make it too OP, because it's all arbitrary. Like, Oda just decides, like, is this character this strong or that strong, right? Oda could have said that, like, yeah, Kaido was awakened that entire time, and then we'd just be like, okay, well, that doesn't change our perception of what he did in the battle, you know? Yeah. So, I don't know about being too OP is a thing. No, we covered this. Yeah, Kuma's will... bring him to save Bonnie. I think that would be cool, though, if Kuma shows up here, and I think we might be set up for that. Sleeping Dangers says, does this chapter confirm Kaido greater than Luffy? Well, the question is always, Kaido is stronger than Luffy. The question is, in Gear 5th, is Luffy stronger than Kaido? To that, my only question is, during the period of time that Luffy's in Gear 5th, is he stronger than Kaido? To that, my question is, like, what is the deal with Advanced Conqueror's Haki as it was used throughout this fight with Kizaru? That's my question. Like, what was the deal with... One, it feels like Luffy used Gear 5th for a shorter period of time against Kizaru than he did even against Kaido, okay? But we'll leave that out of the equation. My bigger question is basically, how much was Luffy using Advanced Conqueror's Haki against Kizaru? Was it just that final attack? In which case, that's a really bad look for Kizaru, like the first time Luffy uses Advanced Conqueror's Haki, Kizaru goes down. Or was he using it the entire time and it just wasn't explained or demonstrated? Because that really shifts my perception of how I view this Luffy versus Kaido versus Kizaru situation, you know? Because if Luffy was using Advanced Conqueror's Haki the entire time, then that makes Kizaru look really good. And if Oda just decided to illustrate it for that final attack, then, that's just Oda's random artistic choice, I guess, right? It doesn't really tell us anything about Luffy versus Kaido because we already saw that fight, right? So this fight can't really tell us anything new about Luffy versus Kaido, in my opinion. You can only really break down the circumstances and what happened with Luffy versus Kaido, JP, thanks for the 10. To be fair, it's not just Toei. The channel that One Piece airs on has a stake on it. Yeah, so I said, like, whichever fucking corporation you want to blame it on, the channel, cool. It's not Toei then. It's the channel, I guess. But to me, it's just attaching a name to whoever. My general frustration is with the fact that whoever is ultimately behind the production of the One Piece anime clearly has no respect for the audience. They get input. They're anti-filler, anti-cover stories because of how much viewership drops when Luffy isn't the focus. Yeah, and I'm sure they would completely run out of money if they ever had to, take even the slight... Like, that's the thing. They've crunched the numbers, obviously, right? And they've realized that providing good canonical content, right, the viewership doesn't increase enough if they do good pacing for that, right? And because the anime viewers that like the anime, they're ultimately just going to watch it no matter what, no matter how bad the pacing gets. So that's the problem. So you could say it comes from two ends, which is one is the corporation behind it, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, they're a business, so they're just going to do the smartest business move, even if it really disrespects the original work. They're like, we could do filler content, right? And then get to the canonical content that could be a little bit better paced thanks to the filler, but we technically don't have to do that, right? So we can just take the canonical content and make it worse, because these anime viewers, they don't actually care how good the pacing is at the end of the day. They will watch no matter how bad we make the pacing. So it's a two-end problem, right? The anime stands, hardcore anime stands, well, basically, they don't care how low the anime quality gets in terms of pacing, right? Give us a 2 pages per episode, we'll still fucking watch it. It's like, okay, if we can give you 2 pages per episode and give you a terrible episode and you'll still watch it, why wouldn't we do that? So it just sucks, but it is what it is. Varp TM, thanks for the 2. Were the Gorosei fighting on God Valley? Matchups. I don't think the Gorosei were fighting on God Valley. He did say it's been a while since he's been to the surface, but we don't really know what that means. Also, as far as I understand, the head of the Gods Knights was, Figarland was supposedly, according to Viz translation, the champion of God Valley. So in that case, if he's the primary celestial dragon that had a big role at God Valley, maybe the Gorosei weren't as involved. Insatiable Hunger, thanks for the 5. How can Toei be so ass? I don't know. They have so much content. Ace's novel/story can be stretched, 10 to 20 episodes. We have the cover stories, Enel, Aokiji versus Big Mom. Aokiji versus Big Mom? That never happened. Well, as JP explained, it's because no matter what you do, if you're adapting a cover story, viewership will decrease a little bit during that period of time because no Straw Hats. And, and ultimately anime viewers will watch no matter how bad the pacing is. So there's no incentive. You need incentive. Dragon Pahar says, Alex Jones was right. Satanists rule the world government. In the One Piece world, yeah. Manifest Joe, thank you. Luffy and Doffy are the only only non-world government awakened characters. What about Katakuri? Kalal Brown, and these are only confirmed characters, right? We don't even know, like, is Whitebeard awakened? Is Blackbeard awakened? Stuff like that. And Yamato... Yamato is awakened, as far as we can see. Kalal Brown, thanks for the 5. Hey, Morj, have you heard of this game called Lies of P? I have. I've heard it's very Souls-like. It is a Souls-like that recently came out. It's hard but amazing. I have, but a lot of people have been saying, like, oh, well, it's not as good as, like, Bloodborne or, like, an actual Souls game from Soft Game. So I'm like, maybe I'll try it at some point, I don't know, but I mostly just want Bloodborne to come to PC. Dragon Pahar, thanks. Can't wait for the Edge, literal devil fruit. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I put out that theory a while back. I've thrown out many Emu theory options at this point, but one of the OG ones was basically that Emu might have the devil fruit, and that is looking like it is a solid possibility. GDN, thanks for the 5. Awakening is when your mind catches up to your body. I don't have it myself, but you can ask Saturn or Lucci. I don't have it myself, but you can ask Kaku. Omarua, thanks for the 5. Kaido's fruit already does everything he wants. What's Awakening supposed to give him? What? Big Mom as well. Her fruit already does whatever you can imagine. I don't even know how I address this. It already does everything he wants. What's Awakening supposed to give him? What? What is this? What? How? What? Can anyone even like? Can anyone even break down like this argument? I don't even know what to say to this. This is just like so absurd. It's just like, well, Kaido doesn't want any want to be more powerful. He doesn't want to be faster, stronger. He doesn't want his Zoan fruit to be as good as it could be. He doesn't want additional abilities or anything like that. What does this even like? Big Mom as well. Her fruit already does whatever you can imagine. So you'd think that her awakening would just do nothing, and that's just it? Like, I don't even know what to say to this, because Kaido and Big Mom, both these characters are very ambitious characters. Both of them are aiming to be number one in the world, at least in the pirate world. Both of them are competing with each other as well as with many others for the One Piece. Both of them, throughout their stories we've seen, are scrapping for every advantage that they can get. Kaido in particular is obsessed with getting stronger. Big Mom in particular is obsessed with power, right? Why would you ever argue that these characters, like, it just logically makes sense that they wouldn't want a very basic fucking ability that even fucking Kaku of CP9 or Kaido's, like, fucking child, like, Kaido's fucking kid that he kept locked up in his basement for 30 years could pick up. These characters, they just don't want it. Noah Phillips, thanks for the 10. This will probably be late to the convo, but I don't think Oda cares about being consistent about things like Haki and Awakening. He might not even think about it. Most casual readers won't care anyways. I would be totally fucking fine with that argument if you're not simultaneously making that stuff a huge deal in the story. Like, if anything, one of the primary running, like, plot lines or plot threads, or just in general, one of the main cruxes of what the entire Wano arc centers around is Luffy's growth through Haki, and Oda going into great detail, breaking down, like, Luffy's entire storyline in Act 2, right, is learning Haki, explaining the rules of Haki, right, explaining why it's a big deal. His entire battle in Onigashima, for the first, like, 70%, is Luffy having realizations about Haki, figuring out Advanced Conqueror's Haki, right, that's the turning point of the battle, coming back with new and better Advanced Conqueror's Haki, splitting the sky, putting so many things together for the reader's mind of, like, okay, this is the secret. This is what Kaido and Big Mom were doing back when they fought. This is what Whitebeard and Shanks were doing back when they fought. This connects to the Odin and Whitebeard clash, right? So Oda, like, that's being written into the Odin flashback, right? Oda clearly cares a lot about making the reader understand how important Haki is. There's even a huge, like, literally the finale of the battle of Luffy against Kaido is Kaido explaining how important Haki is, and that Haki transcends all, and that's the only way you can become Pirate King, right? It's establishing all that. Even in Luffy's final attack against Kaido, he begins by explaining again, I'm going to be able to punch through your magma because the old man explained to me how to use Ryo and stuff like that. So you can't, on the one hand, like, if Haki was just like a random ass thing, like, on the side, like, I'm trying to think of an equivalent ability, like, like, we had Mantra. No, that's not a good example. Like, I don't know, like, even something as simple as Diablo Jambe. I never cared that Diablo Jambe was never explained, because at the end of the day, it's just like this random ability that Sanji has. He's setting his leg on fire. Do we really need to know the details? It's whatever, right? It's important to Sanji for some fights or whatever, but Haki is different. The entire fucking Wano arc is beating into our heads the importance of Haki, going into great lengths to explain how Haki works, the details behind Haki, etc., and clearly writing in the significance of Haki as being the key to resolving this entire conflict, as being the way that Luffy is able to finally overcome Kaido. Like, you could say Luffy's entire fucking storyline from Act 1 of Wano to of him being, like, crushed by Kaido right away, to Act 3, where he's, like, grown stronger, learned the secrets of Haki, having more realizations of Haki, and finally is able to overcome Kaido because he's able to have taken all these steps in Haki. You can't craft the entire story around this and then just be randomly inconsistent, right? Because then it's no longer a reader complaining about power scaling. It's like, no, you wrote the story around this. Like, this is the story, right? This is a huge, it's not the entire story, but this is a huge pillar of the entire story. Like, the entire plot and the way the plot developed, right? And the way characters were able to achieve certain things was because this element of the story was written in, and you told us that it's really fucking important, and you went to great lengths to explain to us how it works. So if you do that, then you can no longer just be inconsistent with it. because you've crafted this you've beaten that element, that fantasy element, so deeply into the story, and so much rides on this that now you can't be inconsistent, right? It's no longer something that you can just be like, oh, sometimes I'll remember it, sometimes I won't remember it, and it's just like vague, like, well, why is this character able to use it? Why is this character not able to use it? Is this character using it right now? Are they not using it right now? You can't have it both ways, right? Like, once you're establishing something super fucking important, it needs to remain super fucking important. That's just the way it is. You can't get lazy with it afterwards, because then it's just like, why should we care at all when anything why should we care at all when anything is explained to us? Like, why should we care at all when, like, any progress is made by characters? Why should we care about any of the concepts that you introduce to us, from devil fruits to, like, ancient weapons, etc., if the concepts don't matter as soon as you, like, stop thinking, like, as soon as you get lazy about it, or just feel like, cutting corners or something like that, Same thing with Awakening. Like, the entire climax of Wano is Luffy awakening his fruit. That is the highlight moment of Wano. For many people, they might say that that's their favorite moment in all of One Piece, Luffy awakening his devil fruit, right? You can't have that be like what this entire story leads up to, and the climactic, memorable moment, right? Joy Boy's return, introducing the concept of Nika, all of this stuff, all of it built on the concept of awakening, and then at the same time just be like, well, how does it work exactly? I don't know. What, this character has it just because I felt like drawing the design for it. This character I forgot this. It's not important. Why doesn't this character have awakening if it's so fucking important? How did Luffy even get it, even though this character didn't get it? It just doesn't matter. Like, it just doesn't work both ways. You guys get what I'm saying? Tomahawk PWPT, thanks for the 5. So wait, what was Gear 4th awakening wise? Also, maybe change the term to Conqueror's Infusion, or Conqueror's or CI. Advanced Conqueror's Hockey just sounds corny and cumbersome. I agree, but I'm not in charge of changing the terms. This is what the fandom says, and they came up with like long ass terms, so that's what we got to use. I don't think Gear 4th is any sort of I don't know if there's like a canon thing that I can just make up to explain Gear 4th, basically, and that's goes hand in hand with the problems inherent to how Awakening is explained. Dragon Pahar, thanks for the 5. You have to be in tune with your devil fruit to awaken it. You have to be in tune with your devil fruit to awaken it? Ulti and company didn't have that dino autism. Isn't Ulti basically perfect for her devil fruit? Like a hard-headed, like she literally likes to fight with headbutts. She's a hard-headed Pachycephalosaurus at heart. And Kaku was vibing with being a giraffe since day one. But this explanation is just pure headcanon. You have to be in tune with your devil fruit to awaken it. That's not really what Kaido said, but if you, at a real stretch, you could say that that's consistent, I suppose, with, like, at a real stretch, you could say that that's kind of what Kaido was saying, I guess. But it's so random to just say that Ulti and company didn't have that connection with their devil fruit. Like, I felt like all of the, like, Sasaki, all of the Tobiropo and the Calamities were really, they really liked having those dinosaur devil fruits. And, like, Sasaki was like, oh, didn't you know? This is how dinosaurs used to do this shit back in the day. King was talking about how dinosaurs used to do that shit back in the day. They liked being dinosaurs, as far as I could tell. Like, Kaku, yeah, he liked his fruit, but, okay, like, if you want to go that far, okay, what about Lucci? What about Yamato? What was written in the story to say that these characters are more into, like, one, you have to take the premise that is not actually established in the story, that you have to be in tune with your devil fruit to get it, right? That's, as far as I remember, that's not what Kaido specifically said, right? That's something that is being made up, I guess, for this argument. But even if we are to humor that, right, that headcanon, then even by humoring that headcanon, it's still not consistently explaining why some characters are able to awaken in and be in tune with the devil fruits while some aren't, right? You would need to add in more headcanon to explain, like, you know what, Sasaki secretly hated being a fucking Triceratops. He secretly really didn't like it. Kaido secretly really didn't like being a dragon. He was never in tune with it. Every time he's flying around, he's like, oh, fuck, this feels weird. I have a fear of heights. I'm so fucking confused. I guess like Momonosuke. Like, oh, this Boro breath attack that I love spamming. You know, I fucking start every fucking fight in dragon form for no reason, even though I always get fucked up. Oh, man, I really don't know why I do it when I hate being a dragon so much. Even though I'm fucking obsessively choosing this form as my starter form in every fight that I get in. Eric Torlado, don't say that shit. Rayo Chia, thanks for the 2. I was spoiled on Ace's death when I started One Piece. Ah, fuck. You didn't spoil anyone in chat. Pony up, thanks for the 10. Sukuna. This is some fucking Jujutsu Kaisen spoiler shit now. Here's the thing. We're not going to talk about it here. Let me see if I can talk about it in vague terms. Sukuna's attack is similar to King Crimson's attack. Time and space are adjacent. Destroying one destroys the other. I think you're reading a bit too much into it, and I don't think mangaka are quite in tune with each other in terms of like, oh, this is how you're addressing time and space with your random ass abilities. I think that it's all they're all just making their own shit up, and I don't think this is like how real physics works necessarily. But like the attack that Sukuna did does make sense though conceptually when you think about what the other characters who it was used on, when you think about what his ability is, right? If you understand what the author was going for with that ability, right, then you can understand why the explanation behind Sukuna's ability makes sense. So I did kind of like that. Todd Edson says, Kaido's the Giannis of One Piece, run and dunk Thunder Bagua. Kaido is run and dunk, man. He has no he has no bag, he has no awakening skills. Caleb Brown, thanks for 5. Morji is it true that you and Fiji Radman go get Indian food every week? If so, can I come get some next time? Also, are you going to the Ghetto Reverie tomorrow? There's a Ghetto Reverie tomorrow? Did Virgo invite me? If Virgo didn't invite me, I'm going to be heartbroken. I don't think I can go. Hold on. Oh, wait. He did invite me. He did invite me. All right. You know what? I'm going to go. I will join for a little bit. All right. Good stuff. Thanks for letting me know. Because he did message. Okay, so for me with Twitter, it's hard to explain, but like, I always check DMs last for whatever reason. It's just because sometimes I'll see multiple DMs. Like you see in your notifications, you'll see. Like I'll check my notifications semi-frequently, unless it seems like they're piling up. But then like DMs, I'll just like push them off for a while, and then I don't check them for a bit because. If you see a few like things like, and you don't know which ones are from group chats and stuff like that, you just see some like DM notifications on the side. I'm like, that's like, what if I look at that and it's something important? That'll be a hassle to look into. Like, I'm just gonna save that extra mental whatever for later. You know what I mean? So I always look at DMs last. So I would have probably missed this because I feel like I wouldn't even have looked at this till like maybe sometime Saturday if I just feel like. Clicking to see. So thanks for mentioning that. I will try and go to the Ghetto Reverie. I'll let Virgo know right after this stream. And no, me and Fiji don't get Indian food every week because I think Fiji lives in Britain or something like that. And also I don't even get I don't think the last time I paid for Indian food to get it from a restaurant was probably like 6 months ago. And then the time before that was probably like 3 years ago. So I don't really do that much. Dragon Power says Luffy will summon the 3 Demon Slayers he knows, Denjiro, Tanjiro, and Gojo. But given their track record versus Demon Kings, he still does 98% of the work. Ubermonk, thanks for the 2. Seems like 2 Admirals are greater than a Yonko. If so, why do the Yonko exist? Because sending 1 Admiral is already a huge commitment. If you send 2 Admirals to take out a Yonko, right, you're basically sending... Like, the Admirals are the 3 greatest... The Admirals are like nukes. They're the One Piece version of nukes. Because the real One Piece version of nukes, which are the ancient weapons, they've been out of commission for 800 years, right? They're coming back. They're making a comeback. Don't worry about that, right? They're all making a comeback. If Imu gets some more Mother Flames, then, they're officially back on the table. But aside from ancient weapons and stuff... What the One Piece world had in terms of nukes, as far as we could tell, were individuals, the 3 admirals. If something really important is going down, you send an admiral over there, right? So if you are wasting, like you're sending 2 admirals to go fight a Yonko, you still need to send a bunch more people to take out their subordinates and everything like that, right? You're committing a huge amount of military strength to take down one of these rival groups. And at the end of the day, that can leave you vulnerable for one of the other rival groups to swoop in and attack you, right? So, the world government's got a lot of enemies. The Revolutionary Army. What if like the other emperors, they don't like the world government in the first place either. So if like the world government sends some admirals to go take down, I don't know, Kaido, like the Beast Pirates, they send an admiral, etc. to Wano, right? Then suddenly they're spread really thin. Akaino's even like, we don't have the manpower to comfortably do that, right? They're suddenly spread very thin. They would probably succeed, right? If you send an admiral to over to Wano, they'd probably succeed. But, you know, it's a huge commitment of resources, and the Marines have to try and allocate resources to maintain as much control as they can over the entire world. Omarua, thanks for the 5. Let me rephrase. Oda probably can't come up with a way to make their powers even more broken than they already are. That's why they don't awaken Lola too. That's not a reason, because then you would just make their base level of power lower. That doesn't make any sense. Simple example, right? What did Big Mom do to power up versus... Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you could just... Like, you can have their whatever you need their final form to be, like awakening or whatever, right? What did Oda have Kaido do instead? He's like, well, Kaido goes through these drunk modes to get stronger over time, right? That's completely fucking random, right? I don't think anybody who was reading, like, before the drunk modes were written in, I don't think any of us were like, yeah, how's Kaido gonna awaken? Or, like, what's Kaido's final power level gonna be? Power level, right? Well, obviously, you know, I think Kaido's gonna go through some drunk modes, so we gotta deal with that. And then he'll awaken probably, and after that, he'll probably just be too broken. It's just like, no, if you need Kaido to get stronger over the course of his fight with Luffy, just have him fucking awaken instead of doing the drunk modes. There's so many things. Big Mom, what did she start doing? She started eating her own lifespan, right? To get to her final form. Instead of doing that, he could have just had her awaken, right? Like, instead he had them do some really weird-ass shit, so they did get stronger over the course of their fights. But you can just set the final power, like, you don't go... It's not like this is a story, right? He's deciding everything. It's not real life. It's not like Kaido's an actual character and it's like, well, if we give him awakening, then he would just be unstoppable, right? It would be putting this guy on steroids. No, it's like, no, he's a written character. You just say that whatever power level he is at when Luffy beats him, he's awakened in that mode, and then scale down a little bit everything else. That's it. Or take away one of the other power-ups that you gave him, which like his random drunk modes or something like that. Take away flirty drunk Kaido or something, and just have him awaken instead, and then that's like the last power-up or whatever, right? Like, Kaido even just him getting angrier after Big Mom went down, that seemed to give him a bit of a boost, right? Just make that awakening instead or something. There's so many fucking things you can do. Like, these are characters. You get to decide how strong they are. There's no such... They're only too broken if you just decide that, like, their final power level is going to be too broken. You can make it at a level that Luffy beats him still anyway, and then just, like, scale back other aspects of what he's been. Ubermonk, thanks for the 5. If Admiral is greater than 1 Yonko, it's weird that there are 3 Admirals, 1 Fleet Admiral, Garp, Sengoku, Gorosei, Gods, Knights, and Imu. Maybe I'm thinking too much. I would cross off Gorosei, Gods, Knights, and Imu from that equation, just because they're really, like, the Marines are the ones that are supposed to be doing the dirty work, maintaining the balance of the world. The goal of the Gorosei, Gods, Knights, and Imu is to live a chill, relaxed life in Marijoa, dictating things from above. They kind of just press buttons and things happen, you know, like, kind of go do this. We're going to wipe out this island, I'll press this thing, right? We're just going to, like, that's their goal. They're not factoring into the equation, okay? So then you got 3 admirals, 1 fleet admiral, right? You're still counting Garp and Sengoku, but you got to keep in mind that they're technically retired, right? Garp kind of came out of retirement as a teacher to go do this raid at Hachinosu. So there's a lot of factors to consider. Herlock Sholmes, thanks for the 2. Kaido's monster point is Pluton, final cope. I don't know about that. Noah Phillips is not justifying inconsistency, just cynical about it. Oh, I see. No, that's fair. I just use your comment as a springboard to go on a rant. It's not necessarily directed at you. But it's the type of thing that I've heard before, which is just like, when people are like, you know, Oda's just inconsistent about hockey or something, and it's just like, it's just a thing that we roll with. It's like, that's not... Hockey's, whether you like it or not, like Hockey and Awakening, these are huge, crucial story elements, right? That the author himself has made clear are very, very fucking important and a huge pillar of the story that he's writing. So you can't just be inconsistent about that. It'd be kind of like if the log post just randomly was just like, oh, well, sometimes he just forgets that a log post needs to reset or something to go to another island, and it's just like, oh, we can just sail back to Amazon Lily whenever we feel like it or something like that. Consistency matters in the rules that you're setting up for your story. Justin Holland, thanks for the 2. Hoping for a Straw Hat team attack. I think we'll get, I don't know if we're going to get all the Straw Hats combined together doing something like that, but that would be awesome. It's been a long-ass time since we've seen something like that. Tom says, Morj are missing supers. I'm catching him. Just give me a second. JP, thank you for the 50. I think the best theory I saw on Awakening, thank you for the 50, man. Appreciate it, is that when your desire lines up with some of the desires/dreams that birthed the devil fruit. Like Luffy stating that he wants the whole world to be free to eat, the liberator mindset that made the Nika fruit. I think that's a great theory. I think that is a phenomenal theory. I would love if that turns out to be true, right? Because it fits really, really well with what with how Luffy's stories came out. But at the same time, it's like it's headcanon being used to try and rationalize some huge gaping holes in consistency in the story. So, I think it's cool if that would be, I think it would be cool if that were true, but we also have very little to suggest that that is true so far. I think that it will, let's see how some more characters' awakenings go in the future, Hans Ding, thanks for the 2. Kaido love dragon like Giannis loves shoot jumpers. It's funny. Sleeping Danger, thanks. Would Shanks have won if they kept fighting at Marineford? If Fuke had won it. Oh, would he have beaten the world government? I don't think so, personally. No, I don't think so. He's not beating all those admirals and, Fleet Admiral and stuff. And, yeah, he's got his crew. I don't know how strong people think Ben Beckman is, but I don't think, maybe I'm underestimating the Red-Haired Pirates, but I just don't think it's possible. Okay, what? I don't think I missed any supers. Am I crazy? Scrolling back through. Okay, I see one. Dragonfire says, I guess awakening is when you fit the dream of that devil fruit. Kaido and Yamato are protectors, so he didn't awaken. Dofi is a puppet master. Kaku loves giraffes. I don't know. Again, that fits with what we just, what JP just said. And look, I could get that as some headcanon, but we need a bit more for that to be true, right? Because you need to make some very generous assumptions about characters to shoehorn in that theory to be correct. Did I miss anything else? I don't think I've missed anything else. If I've missed anything else, please let me know in the comment section. Okay, I mean now I'm catching up on some stuff here. Anuj Agrawal, good to see you again, man. Thanks for the 5. God's Knights and Gorosei and Imu aren't in balance of power because they're devils when they fight. The world government's dominance/approval is built on lies, averts eyes. That is true. That is true. You can't really have the Gorosei, that's why Gorosei Saturn, that's why there's orders to avert your eyes and stuff like that, because you can't really have the people knowing that the world is run by literal demons and monsters and stuff like that. That's a very good point. No, I believe that Ben Beckman is strong. I just don't think he's I personally don't think, even, let's say we're being very generous, right? Let's say Ben Beckman can beat an admiral. Or is equal to an admiral. Let's be very generous. Let's say Ben Beckman can take an admiral. Even if Ben Beckman can take an admiral, then they're still outnumbered there at Marineford, Okay, let's play out the rest of this hypothetical, right? Let's pretend Akainu is still occupied fighting the Whitebeard pirates, right? So I do not think Shanks and the Red-Haired Pirates could take out everybody on the Marine side by themselves. But if we allow the characters to keep playing out the storylines that they were already playing, then maybe there's a shot. Because let's say the Whitebeard Pirates keep fighting as well. Okay, let's say the Whitebeard Pirates keep fighting as well, so it's the Whitebeard Pirates and the Red-Haired Pirates essentially on the same side, right? So you got that going. Then, let's say the Blackbeard Pirates keep going, right? They keep wanting to fight. Let's pretend that. Let's say the Blackbeard Pirates want to keep going. Let's say Mihawk still leaves because he doesn't want to fight Shanks, right? He's not interested in fighting Shanks. Let me clarify, right? He's not interested in fighting Shanks, so we don't get any squabbles there. With all that considered, so it's let's pretend Blackbeard. So it would be the Red-Haired Pirates still fighting, the Whitebeard Pirates still fighting, the Blackbeard Pirates still fighting, and then the world government the Marines have to deal with all of that. I think if you phrase it that way, then it becomes really fucking difficult for the world government, you know? I'm not gonna break down the nitty gritty of like who will win what matchup or whatever, or like, you know, but you get what I'm saying? Because then you've still got, you can move the Shichibukai kind of out of the way because they're just not that committed to the whole thing, right? Like Mihawk literally left. Boa Hancock is absconding with Luffy, right? Doflamingo just wants to fuck around. He's not really helping anything or anyone, right? Gecko Moria is Gecko Moria. So not really a factor, right? So what you're looking at is the world government has on their side they've got Garp Sengoku, right? A tired Akainu who's been putting in work for hours, right? Somewhat moderately tired Aokiji and Kizaru, right? So they've got those 5. And then they're up against the entire red-haired pirates, so a Yonko and his entire crew. They've still got another Yonko crew to deal with like Marco, Vista, all of these guys, right? Because they would keep going, right, to help Shanks if needed. And then you've still got the Blackbeard pirates, so like all these Impel Down prisoners and stuff, and Blackbeard running around with 2 fruits. He's not Yonko level or anything like that at this point in time, but he's still a big problem. It would just be hard. You get what I'm saying? It would be hard. It would be a difficult matchup. What's the one that I missed? John 678, what did I miss? Did I miss something? Yeah, please let me know in the chats what if I missed one. John 678 says I missed a member chat. My bad, man. Yeah, just comment what it was again. Oh no, I see. I got All right. I got groped on the bus today, says John 678. Fuck you, Morj. I guess I was on the bus today with John 678. Or it's just somehow my fault from far away. Blackbeard stealing a Gorosei Zoan Devil Fruit. Holy shit! John 678, I'm sorry I missed your comment because you might have just had one of the most interesting comments of the stream. Blackbeard stealing a Gorosei's Zoan Devil Fruit will enable him to be the final villain. Morj gets racist on this month's Pirate King podcast, so join to hear what he said. Let me throw this out. Okay, thanks for mentioning that, John 678. I did just do a Pirate King podcast. It's a podcast for people that are Pirate King members and up. It's exclusive. It is an hour long. In it, I delve into a variety of topics, and we're going to talk about the Blackbeard Devil Fruit thing in a second. But I will just shout this out. If you are interested in getting this hour-long podcast, you would also get access to all the weekly Yonko podcasts. So those come out every Friday and are about 20 minutes long. But the Pirate King Tier podcast is one where I answer questions that are specifically submitted by you guys to me, and I answer them fairly in depth. So if that's something that's, you know, somewhat interesting to you, this time's podcast I thought was really interesting in terms of questions, because we went over things like, you know, generally like a lot of predictions about the final saga, but then also lots of life-related things like how you deal with productivity, how you analyze series, things like that. So if that's something interesting to you, definitely check that out, in my opinion. But obviously, let me pitch that. The other thing I'll say is that with Blackbeard stealing a Zoan Devil Fruit, because I still believe that Blackbeard will get a Zoan Devil Fruit, there is the theory that he already has a Zoan Devil Fruit and hasn't shown us, but I like to think that he's going to steal one more by the end of the story. I think that's just more fun to me. So with that in mind, the Gorosei never crossed my mind, because I was just like, I just felt like it would be something that we've seen already for some reason. I was like, it'll be somebody's fruit that we've already seen. But the Gorosei makes so much sense because they've probably got 5 of the strongest fruits out there. And it would just fit Blackbeard's persona to have a very devilish ability like they seem to have. However, I will go back again and mention that it is very, very possible that the Gorosei don't even have devil fruits, but just are demonic beings in some way. Red Ryujin, thanks for upgrading to Pirate King tier. I really appreciate that. Check out the podcast when you can. I think it's a good one. Yeah, and again, if you're interested, then you can submit your own questions, basically, and you can, like, in this one, I talked a lot about FromSoft games, for example, for, like, a little bit, because that was one of the things that was asked. Sunwreath, thank you for joining the Pirate King tier podcast. Again, you can, you know, every month you can submit your own questions. You can make me talk about pretty much any topic you want me to talk about, so that's the big benefit of that, I suppose. But really, I just appreciate the support. So thank you very much, both of you. Beyond that, what do we have? I think I missed one thing real quick. Sebian Rob, thanks for the 5. Morj Arsabos. Let me clarify one thing real quick. I did not say anything racist on the Pirate King tier podcast this week. He's just throwing that out as a joke. So I'm sorry if you subscribe to for that. But maybe I will one day. You never know. Morj, are Sabo stocks up after this chapter? Dude was in a room with 5 of those things. Keep up the great vids. I am personally of the opinion that things like escape. Thank you for the comment about the videos. I'm personally of the opinion that Sabo escaping is not that big of a deal, just because I don't think, I think in One Piece, lots of characters, sometimes they just have to escape for the plot to work. They just gotta escape to be able to escape. I don't think that necessarily means that much about, what are you gonna say? Sabo's the fastest, he's one of the fastest characters in the world. That's the big feat he had. I don't know if that's really what it was. Because again, I go back to, Oda had Beppo get away from Blackbeard and Van Augur. Does that mean anything whatsoever in terms of Beppo's strength in relation to Blackbeard and Van Augur? I personally don't think so. I personally think it's more impressive, in fact, that Beppo got away from those two, because the 2 characters that he got away from there are 2 characters who, if I were to handpick a couple of characters in One Piece, that would be extremely, extremely fucking difficult to escape if you're, in close range from. It would be Blackbeard and Van Augur, because Van Augur was introduced to us sniping pre-time skip, at his pre-time skip level, being able to snipe birds from beyond eyesight range. You couldn't even see the island that he's sniping from, right? So essentially miles and miles and miles away, he's able to casually snipe anyone from miles and miles away. And he has teleportation abilities, and it's post-time skip, so his sniping's a lot better, right? You shouldn't be able to escape Van Augur whatsoever. Blackbeard has a fruit where, the first ability that was shown is that it's able to draw, this is what the entire fruit literally is. It's drawing shit in, right? It's suction. It's drawing shit in. That's Blackbeard's ability. It's being able to say, stuff over there comes over here, right? Everything gets drawn in. It is the fruit to capture someone who is trying to get away from you. So to me, do we scale Beppo off of that? I don't think so. In the same way, I wouldn't read too much into Sabo escaping the Gorosei. It doesn't mean that much, in my opinion, because it's just Oda just needed these characters to be able to get away at the end of the day. I'm not saying that Blackbeard and Van Augur are stronger than the Gorosei and Imu. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if you're picking specific abilities, it's Blackbeard and Van Augur have the 2 abilities that are probably up there. Their specific skill set, their specific ability set, right, makes it almost if it's written if it's written to the full extent of their abilities, it's pretty much impossible to just get away from them if you're standing right here, right? You would need to actually defeat them or something like that, right? The Gorosei, as far as we've seen, don't have you get what I'm saying? The bigger point is not exactly scaling Blackbeard and Van Augur to the Gorosei. The bigger point is just at the end of the day, if Oda needs a character to just get away from some other characters, Oda's not going to write it that realistically. He wrote Beppo get away from Blackbeard and Van Augur, who have 2 abilities that make it nearly impossible to just easily get away from. But Oda just had Beppo do it. I don't think that's a big feat for Beppo. That doesn't mean he's too fast for Van Augur to snipe, or his reaction time, you know what I mean? It's just Oda just needed a lot to get away, so he had Beppo just get him away, and he didn't have Blackbeard and Van Augur use the full extent of their abilities. I think it's the same thing with the Gorosei and Imu scene. Remix Gang, thanks for 2. Morj, you missed my super. Surely you don't miss this one. What did I miss? Okay, miss super from Fatinga. Okay, hold on. We're catching some. All right, first, let's see. 02657, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 2 months. I want you to skip Remix's super. I can't do that, man, even for you. But, and I want to skip Remix's super. At Remix King, in case you can't find it, can you say what the super is? Anuj Agarwal, thank you for putting in work. Thank you for putting in work this stream. I really appreciate it. Let's get the stream likes up to 400 real quick. So this is from Fatingo, and then I'll catch you, Remix King. Fatingo, Pirate King tier upgrade. Okay, thanks for upgrading, man. Sorry, you know what it is when I'm going off on a long tangent? Okay, I missed a couple. Wait. I got Red Ryujin. I got Sunwreath. I think I missed Fatingo. So I'm sorry, man, but thank you for upgrading to Pirate King tier. I really, really appreciate that. And you said you were asking my thoughts on the anime onlys that have hate boners against you. Also, is this Saboti 2.0? Saturn panel is mad menacing. I get the... I mean, I can't say I... How do I say this? I get it at a core level. Because for a lot of Twitter people, right? I'm assuming this is mostly on Twitter, right? Because that's where I get into back and forth with anime-only people, right? Or anime fans, right? I get it because they just see clips. Well, even with context, I guess it doesn't change that much, does it, right? But, like, you know what it is? I think both sides, it comes from a place of love. Because for the anime people, right, the anime fans, they just love the anime, right? They love they love it despite its flaws. Many of them are likely aware of its flaws. I'm sure that I feel like it's practically impossible to think that the pacing is anywhere near acceptable, right? But they love it despite its flaws, right? And, if you're an anime fan, you've probably been an anime fan for a long time. So, you've seen the series go through its ups and downs, and you're probably just appreciating how good Wano is at this point in time in terms of animation quality in certain moments, right? So, from your perspective, it's like, no, it's been so bad for so long, but now we're finally getting some really enjoyable moments and clips out of it, right? Isn't that really good, right? This thing that I love, but felt was flawed in so many ways for so long. Well, now it's like it's getting these gems. I really appreciate that, right? I feel like that's the mentality of the anime people, right? Anime stans. My stuff comes also from a place of love, which is I love One Piece. I love the story of One Piece, and I used to love the One Piece anime. That's how I got into the series, right? I love watching these characters interact in live, like in animation, right? I love seeing the stuff taken from manga panels and getting to see music put to it, voice acting put to it, music put to it, right? Color, all of that stuff. If I could have it, like if I could go back in time, I'd just be like, yeah, like Enies Lobby, great in the manga, my favorite arc, but I love it even more in the anime, despite some of its flaws and pacings, etc., because I'm able to overlook that for its time, because that's how I initially experienced it, and also you're just getting the voice acting, you're getting the raw yelling moments, all of that stuff, you're getting the emotion, right? So, for me, I love the story of One Piece. I love the fact that I used to be able to experience it in this medium, and over time, that medium just became worse and worse and worse and worse. And it is now at a point where it is so incredibly frustrating and maddening to me that this story that I love so much, I am not able to just sit down. I will never be able to just sit down and binge an arc of it post time skip. I can't do it. I can't sit down and binge episodes of it post time skip. I can never imagine myself watching Whole Cake Island from start to finish in the anime, because what that medium, like what the anime has done to that adaptation, in my opinion, for me, for my standards, has made it beyond unwatchable. It is so... the pain I'm trying to imagine of me trying to sit down and watch Whole Cake Island at that pacing, I'm just like, it's so infuriating that there's such a good story there, right? And you can see how good the anime could be if it just went back to like pre-time skip pacing, right? If you had the same level of animation but just go back to pre-time skip pacing, you can see what we could have, right? But I can never get to watch, like, if I want to re-experience Whole Cake Island, I have to read it, right? I have to read it, and it's great. It's in the manga. Like, I'm reading silent chapters and everything like that, and I'm used to that. It's the manga. It's still the same story, right? It's the story how I initially experienced that story. But I will never, ever be able to, like, actually experience that whole story with sound, with voice acting, with movement, right? That has been locked off forever because this shitty anime production has chosen to adapt half a chapter per episode. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's like this thing that I love, I'm never going to be able to experience it in the way that I would ideally like to experience it, right? Because even if Whole Cake Island, yeah, like Luffy versus Katakuri, that Snake Man fight is great, but that Snake Man fight, it's a small snippet of like the episodes and episodes and episodes of sheer nothing that I would have to plod through to get to those good moments. I'm never going to be able to sit down and just enjoy one of my favorite arcs in an animated medium. And that is really, really frustrating to me. So my hatred for the One Piece anime comes from a place of love and what it has done to a thing that I love. I can understand why the anime fans, the hardcore anime fans, because they're just coming at it from the other side, which is just like, well, we still love this thing despite its flaws, and we would like to just appreciate the moments that are good about it, and you keep shitting on it. And I'm like, I keep shitting on it, one, because you guys make me keep bringing it up, but two, because, like, you guys don't see the full picture, which is that, yes, they're feeding you these moments that are good, but the whole fucking thing is ass, and it has been ass for so long, and they have made it so that none of us can ever actually sit down. Like, how many of you hardcore anime stans are ever going to sit down and binge watch the Wano arc that you love so much from start to finish? If the answer is like 5%, 10% of you, then I don't want to hear any support for the anime, right? Because the reality is that they're not putting out a good product. If even the most hardcore anime stans are basically just like, well, I'm not going to sit down and actually rewatch that entire arc, that would be insane because it would just take too long and it's too slow and too painful and I'd have to skip so much and like skip around all the time in each episode. It's like, good. That means that you're wrong. The episodes are bad. There might be good moments, but the production as a whole is bad if you cannot sit down and watch the whole thing, if you cannot see yourself doing that. That's my full take on the anime. Feel free to post it on Twitter and stuff like that. I do not care how often these people get angry at me because at the end of the day, they're the ones that have to suffer through the anime. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's just talking to people who just don't get it. So I don't really mind how angry that they get because it's just like, well, at least I don't have to actually watch an episode of the anime, you know? So it's like, no matter how angry you get at Twitter, at the end of the day, you're going to have to sit down on like a Saturday or something like that and pull up an episode of the One Piece anime that you've brainwashed yourself into thinking is good and sit through basically 20 minutes of pain. What is Remix King's comment? Also, is this Saboti 2.0? Saturn panel is mad menacing. No, I still think that they get out with a win here, but I think that'll be messy and complicated. What's Remix King's comment? 02657 gifted 10 memberships. I thought you were an anime fan, man. I thought you were an anime fan, I think. So I don't want to... I'm surprised that you hopped on board with that. Noah Phillips, welcome to Pirate King tier. Thank you very much. Look out for that podcast that just came out, I think, literally yesterday. Hour long, a lot of interesting topics in my opinion. And anything you want me to talk about, just throw it into the podcast. As for everyone who was just gifted a membership, make sure you say thanks. Talha, Phantom Greyfire, T-Stew, who's already a member, Tomahawk PWPT, Kidotai, David Q, Nathan Cahoon. Everybody say thank you. Cash, say thank you. That's a funny name. Mike Tyndale, say thanks. Yeah, everybody just say thanks. Say a big thank you. I need to catch Remix King's comment, and I missed a couple other supers right here while I was ranting. Mid-rant, it's just the way that it goes. Sorry, subtypes. 02657 asked, will the robot in Saturn have a kaiju battle? Oh, that's a cool idea. That would be cool. I could imagine the robot attacking / rebelling against the Gorosei. DuckDuck20, thanks for the 5. Feel like there might be a theme around science ethics with Vegapunk, Kuma, Saturn, Frankie, Kizaru, and Sanji in the same place. I mean, it is Saturn. I mean, it is Science Island. Yeah, but they are really collecting all of these guys together in one spot. I think the themes around science, a lot of the themes around Egghead have become more clear recently, but I think the themes around science, they're becoming clear and kind of how science can lead to the manifestation of dreams, etc. But at the same time, you know, I think if there's something more Oda wants to say about science, I think I'm still waiting to see a bit more on that. 02657 says, I am, you hurt my feelings. That is very, very big of you, man. I just gotta say that. That is very big of you to to still support despite me not necessarily supporting everything that you enjoy. Someone said you got One Piece. I think the fact that One Piece exists does say a lot about the state of the anime. What is Remix King's comment? Remix King, what did you say? What is your comment? Let me see if I can catch it. Okay. Ain't no way the 10 subs overshadowed my comment. I'm still looking. Let's see. Did you repeat it somewhere? Remix King says, my super was this. With all this hype surrounding the chapter, how do you feel about Dame to the Bucks, Drew to the Celtics, Emo Jimmy on Media Day, and the Heat's chance to make the finals again? Ooh, great question for end of stream. Great question for end of stream. Shit, and I was trying to wrap shit up a little bit faster. Hold on. Let's see. Fuck. Okay. I feel like I'm gonna... Okay, I'll try and keep this short and sweet. With all this hype, how do I feel about all these things? I feel like Dame to the Bucks is... I feel like it potentially makes the Bucks... I might be speaking too soon. I feel like it makes the Bucks champion favorites. It might be too much of a jump, because like they were a first round exit, but at the same time, like before that, you know, that like they were considered champion favorites almost this year as well. Like they're, as long as they've had Giannis, they're championship contenders, and you know they won just a few years back. They looked really good 2 years back when Middleton was injured. They had a really weird, just the playoffs, the way they played out were the worst spiral of events for them, but I feel like they're potentially championship favorites at this point, because like people are like, yeah, they gave up, like Drew contributed a lot defensively, etc., but like from all of the actual basketball analysis I've watched, and I don't claim to be that knowledgeable in basketball analysis, but I try and watch as much as I can from people that know what they're talking about. It is a near impossible combination to stop, and because just like how do you can't pick your poison really between, like, you've got the physical driving to the basket threat with Giannis, but at the same time that perimeter threat of Dame, and they're both the absolute elite in each of those two categories. We've never had something like that in the NBA ever, right? Like you get stuff like good, like you get combos like LeBron, Kyrie, etc., but Kyrie's not the shooter that like the sniper that Dame is, right? Giannis is like even more committed to just driving as much as he can, even more than like LeBron is. It is just a nightmare offensive matchup for anybody, because it's just like, how do you there's no logistical way to defend both, you know? Drew to the Celtics. I'm never going to believe in the Celtics. I don't care what the Celtics do until like I'm just never going to believe in the Celtics till they actually win a full thing, basically. It's just too... I've seen them be good for so fucking long. I'm just never going to believe till they actually do something. So, yeah, on paper, Drew to the Celtics is huge. Emo Jimmy on Media Day, I don't care. I think that's just, you know, Jimmy's funny sometimes, whatever. The Heat's chance to make the finals again. I mean, on paper, I would just say the Heat's chance to make the finals again, in my opinion, is low. But then the Heat always prove people wrong by making it to the Eastern Conference Finals, the finals, etc. So what do I know? All right, guys, I do think I got a wrap stream here. 02657 says, which Pirate crew would play basketball best? Honestly, it's like I feel like the strongest the Blackbeard Pirates, because they'd cheat. Like, Katarina Devon would transform into the opposing team's players, shit like that. The Blackbeard Pirates, because they'd find a way to cheat. But if you want, they'd be like the Bad Boy Pistons. But if you want to say who would play the best, like if they're playing the game, the Straw Hats wouldn't do well because they've got too many physically weak characters like Nami, Usopp, etc. Like, that stuff doesn't factor in. You know, you can't use your climate tact in basketball. I'd say the Beast Pirates, because they're probably all around the most physically capable group, right? Like, that's their whole thing. They're physically imposing. So I'd say the Beast Pirates. All right, guys. I think I've covered everything. We know we're at the end of the stream when we're talking about basketball and stuff. But this was a fun one. This was a great fucking chapter. I'm seriously looking forward to next week, as I assume pretty much all of you are. And, yeah, thanks for tuning in. I will talk to you all later.